Hi everyone, welcome to the Regular Rampage channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today we'll be looking at regular show facts to fall asleep to. But before we begin, I'd just like to kindly ask you all to subscribe. It's completely free, and it really helps us improve the videos for this wonderful community we've managed to build. Anyway, that's enough. Let's begin. Section 1. The Origins and Creation. Back in 2006, a CalArts student named J.G. Quintel created a short film for his master's thesis that would eventually become one of Cartoon Network's most beloved shows. The short was called 2 in the AM/PM. And here's the wild part. It was literally about two convenience store clerks tripping on acid during their late-night shift. The short opens with two clerks working the graveyard shift at a convenience store. One of them offers the other some Halloween candy, which seems innocent enough, until he casually mentions he put acid in it. The entire 7-minute film shows these two guys hallucinating and morphing into different creatures while trying to stay functional at work. The main character transforms into a gumball machine at one point, dispensing gumballs from his own chest. His co-worker turns into everything from a dolphin to a piece of toast with eyes. When a cop walks in to buy chips, the situation escalates as he inhales an entire bag in one breath, removes his head, sits on it, and flies through the store window. This was the DNA of regular show. Quintel submitted this film to festivals, and it eventually caught Cartoon Network's attention. The network executive saw something special in the surreal humor and the dynamic between the two characters, even if the drug references were far too explicit for children's television. When Cartoon Network approached Quintel about developing the concept into a series, he faced a significant challenge. The original short featured human characters doing actual drugs, which the network obviously couldn't approve for kids. Quintel got creative and transformed the human clerks into anthropomorphic animals, a blue jay named Mordecai and a raccoon named Rigby. The convenience store became a park, and instead of being on acid, the characters would just experience acid trip-level weirdness as part of their everyday lives. The gumball machine character from the short evolved into Benson, the perpetually angry manager. The surreal transformations and reality-bending moments stayed intact, just without the explicit drug use as the cause. This allowed Quintel to keep the bizarre energy while making it acceptable for broadcast. Cartoon Network almost rejected the show for being too weird. Executives weren't sure if kids would connect with a show about two 20-something slackers working a dead-end job at a park. The humor leaned heavily into 80s nostalgia, workplace comedy, and surreal horror elements that seemed more suited for Adult Swim than regular Cartoon Network programming. The network took a gamble on something completely different from their usual offerings. The pilot episode that eventually aired differed from what the series would become. Mordecai and Rigby play rock, paper, scissors for an uncomfortable chair that Pops is throwing away. They tie 100 times in a row, which summons an interdimensional black hole monster. Benson threatens to fire them by the end. This set the template. Mordecai and Rigby goof off, something goes horribly wrong, supernatural chaos ensues, and they barely escape getting fired. Quintel made the decision to voice Mordecai himself. This creative choice gave the character a natural, conversational quality that matched the show's tone. The voice acting overall aimed for naturalism, rather than the exaggerated cartoon voices common in other animated shows. Sam Marin voiced both Benson and Pops, bringing the same grounded approach despite playing a talking gumball machine and an interdimensional lollipop man. The show drew heavily from Quintel's own experiences at CalArts and his early 20s. He channeled the aimlessness of being in your 20s, working jobs you don't care about, hanging out with friends, and wasting time. The 80s influences came from Quintel's genuine love for that era's pop culture, video games, music, and movies. References to laserdiscs, cassette tapes, and VHS weren't just nostalgia bait. They reflected the show's weird relationship with time, where modern cell phones existed alongside outdated technology. Early pitch materials and character designs show how much the characters evolved. Early Rigby looked more realistic and less cartoonish. Mordecai went through several design iterations before landing on his final look. The supporting cast took shape gradually, with characters like Muscle Man and High Five Ghost being refined from initial concepts. The first official episode to air after the pilot was The Power. This episode established everything regular show would become. Mordecai and Rigby break a hole in their wall while wrestling a doll and need money to fix it. They steal a magical keyboard from a wizard and use it to manipulate reality through synchronized dancing. The keyboard grants them reality warping powers. They accidentally send Skips to the moon, and chaos spirals completely out of control. The Power showed audiences that regular show would deliver surreal, escalating stakes every single episode. A simple problem like fixing a hole in the wall spirals into moon travel and monster battles within 11 minutes. The episode introduced the catchphrase, "Oh, whoa, and established the show's formula. Mundane setup, supernatural escalation, barely surviving the consequences. Regular show carved out its own bizarre space where anything could happen, and usually did. Section 2. Mordecai and Rigby's friendship origins. The friendship between Mordecai and Rigby stretches back to when they were barely old enough to talk. Flashbacks throughout the series show two toddlers meeting for the first time, an instant connection forming between a small blue jay and an even smaller raccoon. One of them said something funny, the other laughed, and that was it. They became inseparable from that moment forward. Growing up together meant experiencing everything side by side. First days of school, awkward teenage years, failed attempts at talking to girls, basement band practice sessions, video game marathons that lasted entire weekends. They developed their own language, their own inside jokes, their own way of moving through the world as a unit. Where one went, the other followed. The idea of being apart never even occurred to them. High school brought new challenges and new dreams. Both Mordecai and Rigby started thinking about life after graduation, and the answer seemed obvious: college, university. The school had a reputation as the place where everyone got accepted. Their brochures literally advertised with the motto, "The college for everyone." If you could fill out an application and mail it in, you were basically guaranteed admission, perfect for two slackers who spent more time playing arcade games than studying. They planned their entire future around attending college university together. Same dorm room, same classes, same cafeteria, same everything. College would be like high school, except with more freedom and fewer parents asking about homework. They'd probably start another band, maybe actually get good at it this time. They'd meet people, have adventures, and most importantly, they'd do it all without ever being separated. Application season arrived, and both friends submitted their materials to college university. Rigby checked the mail obsessively, waiting for his acceptance letter. When it finally came, he ripped open the envelope with excitement, ready to celebrate getting into college with his best friend. Then he read the letter. College university had rejected him. The rejection letter was brutal in its honesty. The admissions board stated they couldn't find any reason to include Rigby in their enrolling class. They mentioned that despite college university being a massive school with record-low application numbers, they still had to select candidates who could do the minimum work required. The letter ended by making it clear they would not consider any appeals to this decision and included the phrase, "Sometimes college isn't for everyone," as a final insult. They even added, "We won't be seeing you anytime soon, or ever." Rigby sat there holding this letter, his entire future crumbling in his hands. College university accepted everyone. Literally everyone. How bad did you have to be to get rejected from the school that took anybody? The shame and panic overwhelmed him. Worse than the rejection itself was the thought of what would happen next. Mordecai would get his acceptance letter, pack his bags, and leave for college without him. Their friendship would end simply because Rigby was too dumb to get into the easiest school in the country. Mordecai's letter arrived the next day. Rigby knew what he had to do. He grabbed a typewriter and got to work creating a forgery. He typed out a rejection letter matching the format and language of his own, replacing his name with Mordecai's. The hardest part was getting the signature right, but Rigby practiced until it looked convincing enough. Then he waited for the right moment. When Mordecai went to check the mail, Rigby was ready. He'd already intercepted the real acceptance letter and hidden it in his backpack. He watched his best friend walk back to the house holding an envelope from college university. Mordecai opened it, expecting good news. His face fell as he read the words. Rejected. He looked at Rigby in disbelief. They'd both been turned down. The irony crushed Mordecai. College university had accepted Rigby, the friend who barely tried in school, but rejected Mordecai, who actually put in some effort. Rigby pretended to be surprised, offering sympathy while secretly relieved they'd both stay together. Mordecai threw the fake rejection letter aside and tried to process what this meant for his future. Evidence throughout the series suggests Mordecai was always the smarter and more capable of the two. He solves problems Rigby can't figure out. He thinks ahead where Rigby acts on impulse. He demonstrates basic competence in situations where Rigby flails helplessly. The gap between their abilities makes the college situation even more painful. Mordecai actually deserved to get in. Rigby sabotaged the more talented friend to keep him from moving forward. The rejection letters led directly to their worst decision. Mordecai couldn't accept that his future had been stolen by some arbitrary admissions board. He needed to fix this, to take control of his destiny. He remembered their science teacher, Mr. Ross, had been working on a secret project, a time machine. If they could finish building it, they could travel back in time and make sure Mordecai got better grades. He'd reapply to college university with a stronger transcript and actually get accepted this time. Rigby should have confessed the truth right then. He could have pulled out the real acceptance letter and explained what he'd done. Mordecai would have been angry, maybe furious, but they could have worked through it. Instead, Rigby agreed to help finish the time machine, knowing the entire plan was based on a lie he'd created. They broke into their high school science lab late at night. Mr. Ross kept his time machine locked in a cabinet inside the classroom. The device looked almost complete, just missing a few key components. The most important piece was the weapons-grade plutonium Mr. Ross had stored in a special radioactive container. Mordecai and Rigby put on protective suits and got to work. The assembly process went surprisingly smoothly. They followed Mr. Ross's notes, connected all the pieces in the right order, and successfully installed the plutonium core. Mordecai set the coordinates for a date in the past when he was still in school. All they had to do was press the button, and their time-traveling journey would begin. Rigby reached for the activation switch, hesitated for just a moment, thinking about what they were doing, then pressed it anyway. The time machine exploded. The blast destroyed the entire science lab, blew out windows, triggered fire alarms, and brought police and firefighters rushing to the school. Mordecai and Rigby survived the explosion, but faced serious consequences. Both got expelled immediately. Mr. Ross, whose illegal plutonium had fueled the blast, got arrested and sent to prison. The school pressed charges against Mordecai and Rigby for breaking and entering, destruction of property, and unauthorized handling of radioactive materials. Rigby's acceptance to college university became meaningless after the expulsion. The school rescinded his scholarship once they learned about the science lab incident. No college would accept someone who'd been expelled for blowing up school property with stolen plutonium. Mordecai's rejection didn't matter anymore either, since his expulsion disqualified him from attending anyway. Both friends found themselves stuck in their hometown with no college, no scholarships, and no clear path forward. Mordecai enrolled in junior college, trying to salvage something from the wreckage of his academic career. Rigby crashed with Mordecai in his dorm room, the two of them sharing a tiny space while Mordecai half-heartedly attended classes. The junior college experience depressed Mordecai. He dreamed of a real university experience, and instead he got a commuter school where nobody cared about anything. He dropped out after a semester. Years passed in a blur of minimum wage jobs and aimless drifting. Mordecai and Rigby moved from one temporary position to another, never committing to anything long-term. They worked at video rental stores, fast food restaurants, retail outlets, anywhere that would hire them without asking too many questions about their expulsion. Eventually, they heard about groundskeeper positions opening up at a local park. The job seemed easy enough. Rake leaves, pick up trash, mow lawns, whatever the park manager told them to do. They applied together and got hired as a package deal. The park became their permanent home, the place where two friends in their early 20s settled into a routine they'd maintained for years. They lived in the house on the park grounds, sharing a bedroom like they'd planned to do in college. They worked under a constantly angry gumball machine named Benson, who threatened to fire them multiple times per day. They spent their free time playing video games and watching movies, basically living the college experience they'd missed, except without any education or future prospects. The symbolism of making these slackers a blue jay and a raccoon adds depth to their dynamic. Blue jays are intelligent, adaptable birds known for their complex social behaviors and problem-solving skills. They're also known for being loud and somewhat obnoxious. Raccoons are clever scavengers who prefer the easy route, taking what they need through cunning rather than hard work. They're resourceful and survival-oriented, focused on immediate gratification over long-term planning. Mordecai embodies the blue jay's potential for intelligence and growth, constantly fighting against his circumstances and looking for ways to improve his situation. Rigby embodies the raccoon's preference for shortcuts and comfort, actively resisting change because change means risk. Together, they represent two different responses to being stuck. Mordecai wants to escape. Rigby wants to stay comfortable. Years passed at the park before the truth finally came out. The catalyst was a future version of Rigby arriving in a spaceship, dying from a gunshot wound, warning them about a villain named Ross who was using a time-traveling Timonado to erase all of reality. The dying future. Rigby told present-day Rigby something crucial. Tell Mordecai the truth, even if it means losing him. The truth will save the universe. Present-day Rigby tried to confess multiple times but couldn't get the words out. He'd choke, cough, change the subject, anything to avoid admitting what he'd done. The opportunity finally came when they confronted Mr. Ross, the villain behind the Timonado. Ross, seeking revenge against Rigby for ruining his volleyball championship and his life, revealed the secret to everyone. Rigby had forged Mordecai's rejection letter. Mordecai stood there processing this information. His best friend, the person he'd trusted more than anyone, had sabotaged his future. The college acceptance he'd deserved, the education he could have had, the career he might have built. Rigby had stolen all of it with a typewriter and a lie. Years of working at a dead-end job, years of feeling like a failure, years of watching his potential waste away. All because Rigby was too selfish to let him go. The confrontation that followed was devastating. Mordecai told Rigby he was the reason Mordecai's life had turned out this way. Rigby tried to explain he'd done it to keep them together, that he couldn't handle losing his best friend. Mordecai responded with the words that ended their friendship. "You're not my friend. All you've ever done is hold me back." The friendship that had lasted since they were toddlers shattered in that moment. Rigby ran away in tears, stole a spaceship, and tried to fly himself into the sun. Mordecai watched him go, too angry to care. The bond that had defined both their lives for over 20 years broke because of a lie Rigby had told in a moment of panic. The story could have ended there, with their friendship destroyed forever. The movie's resolution required Rigby to earn back Mordecai's trust through genuine sacrifice and growth. He had to prove he understood what he'd done wrong and was willing to change. The reconciliation didn't erase the damage, but it gave them a path forward together. Their friendship survived because they chose to rebuild it. The foundation had been damaged beyond repair, but they constructed something new on top of the ruins. Mordecai accepted that Rigby had made a terrible choice out of fear of abandonment. Rigby accepted that his actions had consequences he'd spend years trying to make up for. They moved forward as friends who understood each other's worst qualities and chose to stay together anyway. The blue jay and the raccoon, two animals who shouldn't really be friends, continuing their unlikely partnership through choice rather than circumstance. That's the heart of Regular Show. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. It really helps us out. Section 3. Benson's tragic past. Benson Dunwoody manages a public park in the middle of nowhere, screaming at two slackers who destroy something every single day. From the outside, his life looks like a cautionary tale about settling for mediocrity. The truth runs deeper and darker than anyone realizes. Benson ended up in this position after wasting multiple chances at greatness, burning bridges with people who mattered, and watching his youth slip away into nothing. Benson Be Gone reveals the depth of his fears in brutal fashion. Mr. Mellard calls an emergency meeting and announces he's demoting Benson from park manager. A blonde woman named Susan will be taking over his duties, effective immediately. Benson stands there in shock as his entire identity gets ripped away in seconds. Without the title of park manager, he has nothing. No family, no other career prospects, no backup plan. Just a gumball machine with a clipboard who used to be somebody. Susan immediately starts running the park with ruthless efficiency. She assigns tasks with military precision, demands faster results, and tolerates zero slacking. The other park workers actually respond well to her leadership style at first. Things get done quickly. The park looks cleaner. Even Mordecai and Rigby complete their assignments without constant supervision. Susan proves herself to be everything Benson fears. A better manager who makes him completely unnecessary. Benson spirals into crisis mode. He joins Mordecai and Rigby in their slacking, playing stick hockey and eating pizza instead of working. He experiences freedom for the first time in years and loves it initially. Then reality sets in. He watches Susan transform the park workers into copies of herself, literally changing their physical forms to match hers. The visual metaphor hits hard. This is what happens when someone replaces you. They erase everything you built and remake it in their own image. The episode forces Benson to fight for his job against a giant monster version of Susan who threatens to terminate all the employees permanently. He defeats her and reclaims his position as park manager. The victory feels hollow because nothing has actually changed. He's still stuck in the same dead-end job, still screaming at the same idiots, still one disaster away from losing everything again. At least he has his identity back. The fear of being replaced runs through Benson's entire character because he's already been replaced before. Multiple times. In multiple careers. Each replacement cut deeper than the last until he ended up managing a park where replacement feels inevitable. Stick hockey exposes one of those past careers. Mordecai and Rigby find an old stick hockey table crammed in the back of the garage. They start playing and quickly become obsessed with the game. Benson sees the table and has a violent reaction, demanding they stop playing immediately. He tries to throw the game away, but the duo won't let him. They can't understand why Benson hates stick hockey so much when it's clearly so much fun. The episode flashes back to Benson's past life as Death Dragon, a professional stick hockey champion who dominated the competitive circuit. Young Benson had a full head of hair, styled in a mullet, confidence radiating from every movement, and skills that made other players look like amateurs. He had a pupil named Dave who looked up to him and wanted to learn his techniques. Benson taught Dave everything he knew, treating him like a younger brother. The flashback continues to a major tournament. Benson won his match easily and advanced to the finals. Dave played in a separate bracket, facing off against a dangerous opponent named Chong. Benson watched from the sidelines as Dave struggled against Chong's aggressive playing style. Then Chong did something unexpected. He used his sticks like weapons and chopped Dave's head completely off his body. Dave's severed head rolled across the floor while his body collapsed. He died right there in front of Benson. Benson picked up Dave's head and screamed in anguish. His pupil, his friend, had been murdered over a stick hockey game. Benson walked away from competitive stick hockey that day and never looked back. The sport he'd mastered and loved had taken someone important from him. Playing stick hockey meant remembering Dave's death, so Benson refused to play ever again. The present-day story forces Benson to confront Chong again when Mordecai and Rigby get involved with an underground stick hockey gambling ring. Benson has to play Chong in a match to save his friends from getting their heads chopped off. He picks up the sticks for the first time in years and faces down the man who killed Dave. The muscle memory returns, the skills are still there, and Benson dominates the match. He defeats Chong and saves Mordecai and Rigby, finally getting revenge for Dave's death. After the victory, Mordecai and Rigby assume Benson will start playing stick hockey again. He's clearly still talented at it, and he just proved he could reclaim his former glory if he wanted. Benson looks at the stick hockey table and tells them no. He's done with that life. Managing the park is his role now, and he needs to get back to work. The duo can't comprehend choosing park management over being a stick hockey champion. Benson walks away without explaining further. The stick hockey career was already over when Benson's music career was just beginning. 150-piece kit reveals that Benson played drums in a band called Heir to the Throne, the same band name that Mordecai and Rigby used for their high school group. Except Benson's Heir to the Throne was the real deal, a professional rock band that released albums and toured internationally. Heir to the Throne announces they're playing a concert at the park. The entire park crew gets excited except Benson, who has a complicated history with the band. When Heir to the Throne arrives, the members greet Benson with barely concealed mockery. They comment on his bald head, his job as a park manager, and how far he's fallen since his glory days. Benson stands there taking their abuse, unable to defend himself because everything they're saying is true. The band's secret comes out during setup. Heir to the Throne is famous for an impossibly complex drum solo performed on a 150-piece drum kit. The solo is so technically demanding that people believe no human could actually play it. Some guy in Denmark allegedly tried to perform the solo, and his skeleton caught on fire from the intensity. The band has always credited the performance to the Drumotron 6, a drum machine they've used since their first album. Benson reveals the truth. He performed that solo. The legendary Impossible drum solo was his creation, played by his hands on his 150-piece kit. Heir to the Throne stole credit for his work and replaced him with a machine. They've been touring for years, taking bows for a performance Benson created. The band members don't even deny it. They just laugh and tell him nobody will believe he actually played it. Benson retrieves his old 150-piece drum kit from storage and sets it up at the park. He announces he'll perform the solo live before the concert to prove he's the real drummer. The band members panic because they know he can actually do it. If audiences learn a human played the solo, it exposes their entire career as a fraud. They try to sabotage Benson's kit, smashing pieces and destroying key components. Mordecai and Rigby discover the sabotage and help Benson repair the kit. They work through the night, gluing pieces back together, replacing broken parts, and polishing every surface until the kit looks perfect. Benson puts on his old sweatband and prepares to reclaim his legacy. The concert begins with Benson behind the kit, the crowd watching skeptically. Benson starts playing. The solo builds from simple rhythms into increasingly complex patterns, incorporating all 150 pieces of percussion. His hands move so fast they blur. He's hitting drums, cymbals, gongs, bells, shakers, all while maintaining perfect rhythm. The physical strain becomes visible as Benson's body temperature rises from the intensity. His skeleton literally catches on fire, just like the legend warned. Flames shoot through his gumball machine body as he continues playing through the pain. Heir to the Throne tries to stop him by destroying the kit piece by piece as he plays. Benson adapts, moving to different sections of the kit as his former bandmates smash the areas he's already used. He finishes the solo while literally on fire, his skeleton burning inside his translucent gumball machine body. The final strike lands on a massive gong that creates a shockwave powerful enough to blow out the stage lights and knock the audience backward. The crowd goes silent for a moment, then erupts in cheers. Benson proved he could play the impossible solo. Heir to the Throne has to admit they lied about the Drumatron 6. They apologize and beg Benson to rejoin the band. They tell him he's the heart and soul of Heir to the Throne, and nothing has been the same since he left. They offer him his old position back, a return to the rock and roll lifestyle he abandoned years ago. Benson picks up his clipboard from the ground and delivers his response. He doesn't need rock and roll's endless party because the park is his rock, and managing it is his role. He walks away from Heir to the Throne for the second time, choosing middle management over musical glory. Mordecai and Rigby watch him leave in disbelief. They can't understand why anyone would choose managing a park over being a rock star. The pattern emerges clearly across these episodes. Benson keeps abandoning successful careers right when he could capitalize on them. He walked away from stick hockey after Dave's death instead of honoring his memory by continuing. He left Heir to the Throne for reasons the show never fully explains. Each time he quits, he moves down the ladder into something less prestigious. From rock star to stick hockey champion to park manager. Each step takes him further from glory and closer to obscurity. The gumball machine design adds another layer to understanding Benson's psychology. Gumball machines are designed to hold pressure up to a point, then shatter catastrophically when they reach their limit. Benson operates the same way. He handles stress reasonably well most of the time, turning slightly pink when annoyed, darker red when angry. Then Mordecai and Rigby do something especially stupid, and Benson explodes, screaming at maximum volume while glowing bright red. The explosions serve a purpose. They release the pressure before it builds enough to actually break him. Every time Benson screams himself hoarse over a destroyed golf cart or a hole in the wall, he's preventing a complete breakdown. The alternative would be staying calm until the accumulated stress shatters him permanently. The anger keeps him functional. His gambling tendencies appear subtly throughout the series. Benson makes risky wagers, gets emotionally invested in games of chance, and shows addictive behavior around competition. The show never explicitly calls it a gambling problem, but the patterns are there. He can't walk away from a bet even when he should. He chases the high of winning. He makes impulsive decisions when someone challenges him. The gambling connects to his larger pattern of self-sabotage. Benson had multiple opportunities for greatness and walked away from all of them. He could have been Death Dragon forever, the undefeated stick hockey champion. He could have stayed in Heir to the Throne and toured the world as a legendary drummer. Instead, he's managing a park where his employees actively try to get fired, and his boss can't remember his name. Mr. Millard calls him Beanteen, Beanton, Beansdale, everything except his actual name. The disrespect is constant and humiliating. Benson takes it because he has nowhere else to go. This job is his last stop. If he loses this position, there's nothing waiting below it except complete failure. That's why Susan replacing him triggered such a severe crisis. She represented the final replacement, the one that would prove Benson had wasted his entire life. The tragedy is that Benson is actually good at managing the park. He keeps the place running despite constant supernatural disasters, budget constraints, and employees who create new problems daily. He handles zombie attacks, dimension-hopping crises, and apocalyptic threats, while still making sure the lawn gets mowed and the trash gets collected. His organizational skills and crisis management abilities would be valuable anywhere, but he's trapped himself in a position where nobody appreciates them. The episode endings always return Benson to the same spot. He defeats the monster, solves the crisis, saves everyone's lives, then picks up his clipboard and gets back to work. There's no reward, no promotion, no recognition. Just another day at the park with the same two idiots who will destroy something tomorrow. Benson chose this life through a series of bad decisions and self-sabotage, and now he's stuck with the consequences. The gumball machine can't shatter completely because it's already broken inside. Section 4. Skip's immortality and lost love. Skip stands apart from everyone else at the park. While Mordecai and Rigby waste their 20s playing video games and Benson clings desperately to middle management, Skips carries the weight of centuries on his shoulders. He's the only one who actually knows how to fix things. The only one who understands the supernatural threats that constantly attack the park, and the only one who can't die from old age no matter how much time passes. The immortality came at a terrible price. Skips wasn't always immortal. and he wasn't always called Skips. His birth name was Walks, and he was just a regular teenage Yeti attending Bennett High School centuries ago. The story of how Walks became Skips unfolds in Skip's story, during a roofing job where Mordecai and Rigby pester him about his immortality until he finally agrees to tell them the truth. The flashback begins at Bennett High School, where young Walks arrives as a new student with a reputation for fighting and getting expelled from multiple schools. The headmaster warns him that one fight means expulsion from Bennett, his last chance to graduate. Walks meets a young version of Gary, who shows him around the school and introduces him to different cliques. Among them is the Immortal Student Council, a group of giant babies in diapers who would later become known as the Guardians of Eternal Youth. The Immortal Student Council faces constant bullying from their brother Clorgbane the Destroyer, an immortal being who terrorizes the entire school. When Clorgbane shoves one of the council members into a locker, Walks stands up to him. Nobody had ever challenged Clorgbane before. The confrontation nearly turns into a fight right there, but the headmaster breaks it up before either of them can throw a punch. During lunch, Walks meets a girl named Desdemona, who goes by Mona. She sits alone at a table eating an apple and invites him to join her. Walks fumbles through the introduction, stammering and staring at her awkwardly until she calls him out for it. They connect immediately over terrible school food and easy conversation. When the Immortal Student Council approaches Walks about fighting Clorgbane, he agrees at first. Then Mona tells him she's not interested in men who fight. Walks makes a choice in that moment. He tells the council he won't fight Clorgbane because winning against a bully means nothing if it costs him the girl. Walks asks Mona on a date. She suggests he help out with the prom committee instead, where she spends most of her free time. He shows up to help build decorations for an underwater-themed prom. Clorgbane bursts in demanding a fight, but Walks refuses. He uses words instead of violence, walking away from the confrontation. Mona is impressed by his restraint and agrees to go out with him. The montage shows Walks and Mona falling in love. They go on dates, work on prom decorations together, and spend every available moment in each other's company. Walks gives Mona a heart-shaped locket containing pictures of both of them. She promises to wear it always. The Immortal Student Council continues working on a weapon called the Fists of Justice, giant mechanical fists designed to give a mortal the power to defeat an immortal being like Clorgbane. The council convinces Walks to fight Clorgbane for the greater good. They promise it won't interfere with his relationship with Mona and that both she and the headmaster will forgive him once they understand. Walks reluctantly agrees. The council schedules the fight for Saturday at 8 in the evening, the exact same time as prom. Prom night arrives and Walks picks up Mona in a horse-drawn carriage. She looks beautiful in her dress, still wearing the locket he gave her. They arrive at the prom and Walks becomes increasingly anxious as 8 o'clock approaches. He makes excuses about needing to use the bathroom and wanting refreshments, trying to sneak away to fight Clorgbane. Mona pulls him onto the dance floor instead. They slow dance while the Immortal Student Council and Clorgbane wait outside, growing impatient. Clorgbane decides to bring the fight to Walks. He bursts into the prom and starts destroying decorations, demanding that Walks face him. The headmaster orders someone to do something. Mona looks at Walks and nods sadly, giving him permission to fight. Walks charges at Clorgbane and throws several punches, but they have no effect. Clorgbane is immortal. Mortal fists can't hurt him. The Immortal Student Council rushes in with the Fists of Justice. Clorgbane reveals he's been working on a weapon of his own in Metal Shop, a black spike on a rope crackling with red electricity. He swings it at Walks, who dodges. The council members try to deliver the Fists of Justice to Walks, but Clorgbane knocks them away. He catches Walks and starts beating him mercilessly. Clorgbane raises his spike weapon to deliver a killing blow. Mona screams Walks' name and pushes him out of the way at the last second. The spike misses Walks and hits the wall instead, cracking it all the way up to the ceiling. A piece of debris falls from above and crushes Mona beneath it. She dies instantly. Walks screams her name in anguish. The Fists of Justice fly to his hands and he charges at Clorgbane with rage fueling every movement. He beats Clorgbane so badly that the immortal bully begs for mercy. Walks delivers one final punch that sends Clorgbane flying into space, putting him into an orbit around the solar system. The fight is over, but the victory is meaningless. The students gather around the debris pile covering Mona's body. The Immortal Student Council finds her locket shining in the wreckage and hands it to Walks, shaking their heads sadly. She's gone. Walks stands there in shock as tears stream down his face. He's lost the only woman he ever loved. The story jumps forward several years. Walks has spent the time in depression, struggling to find purpose after Mona's death. The Immortal Student Council, now calling themselves the Guardians of Eternal Youth, summon him to their realm. They've calculated that Clorgbane's orbit will return him to Earth in exactly 157 years. He'll harm others when he comes back. They ask Walks if he'll become immortal and fight Clorgbane when he returns. Walks agrees immediately. The Guardians warn him about the price of immortality. He'll outlive his family. He'll watch loved ones come and go while he stays the same forever. Walks responds that he's already lost the one he loved. The Guardians ask him to choose a new name to be reborn with. Walks thinks back to his time with Mona, remembering how they spent hours skipping through the school hallways together. She had joked about calling him Skips if he kept it up. He chooses the name Skips in her memory. The Guardians grant him immortality. Skips tells Mordecai and Rigby that he'll skip until the end of eternity as his way of staying close to Mona. He still carries her locket with him centuries later, opening it occasionally to look at the pictures inside. The tragedy of his origin story explains everything about his character. He's wise because he's lived through centuries of mistakes and learned from all of them. He's calm because he's experienced every possible crisis. He knows how to fix things because he's had hundreds of years to figure out solutions. Fists of Justice brings back the relationship between Skips and the Guardians when Mordecai and Rigby accidentally interrupt his birthday ritual. Skips performs a spirit dance every year to maintain his immortality. The dance gets interrupted and Gary shows up to warn that the Guardians are angry. The episode reveals that Skips has been fighting Clorgbane every 157 years since that night at prom. The cycle continues endlessly. Clorgbane returns, Skips defeats him with the Fists of Justice. Clorgbane gets sent back into orbit for another century and a half. During one of these fights, Mordecai and Rigby end up wielding the Fists of Justice themselves when Skips breaks his fingers. They discover the fists control like a video game, using the same button combinations as their favorite fighting game. They defeat Clorgbane and save the day. The episode shows how Skip's immortality ties him to an endless cycle of violence he can't escape. Every 157 years, he has to relive the worst night of his life by fighting the being who killed Mona. The theory that Skips has watched everyone he's loved die for centuries holds up when you examine his behavior throughout the series. He keeps his distance from emotional attachments. He helps the park crew with their problems, but rarely shares his own. He speaks in measured tones and never gets worked up about temporary setbacks. He's seen it all before because he's literally seen it all before across multiple lifetimes. Skips has a unique relationship with Death himself that appears in several episodes. Death shows up at the park periodically, sometimes as an enemy and sometimes as an ally. Skips treats Death like an old acquaintance, someone he's dealt with so many times that the encounters become routine. Death can't claim Skips due to the immortality, but he can claim everyone around Skips. The two have an understanding. Skips will outlive everyone, and Death will be there to collect them when their time comes. The burden of immortality weighs on Skips constantly. He can't form lasting relationships because everyone he cares about will eventually die while he continues existing. He can't settle down or build a normal life because normal lives end, and his doesn't. He works at the park, doing manual labor for minimum wage, because what else is there to do when you have infinite time and no one to share it with? The job gives him purpose and keeps him occupied. He helps Mordecai, Rigby, and the others, not because he expects anything in return, but because helping people gives his endless existence some meaning. The name Skips itself carries the weight of his tragedy. Every time someone calls him by that name, he's reminded of Mona. Every skip he takes is a memorial to the girl who died saving him. He could have chosen any name when the Guardians offered him rebirth. He chose the one that would keep her memory alive forever. That choice defines who Skips is, a person who loved someone so much that he turned his grief into the foundation of his entire identity. Watching Skips interact with the younger park workers takes on new meaning with this context. When Mordecai struggles with relationship problems, Skips is patient because he's been through worse heartbreak than Mordecai can imagine. When Rigby makes stupid decisions, Skips helps clean up the mess because he knows Rigby will grow up eventually if he survives long enough. When Benson loses his temper, Skips stays calm because he understands that Benson's anger comes from fear of wasting his limited time on Earth. Skips knows something the others haven't fully grasped yet. Life is short for mortals, and they should make the most of the time they have. He can't tell them this directly because they wouldn't understand until they're older. He can only lead by example, showing them how to handle crises with dignity and how to value the relationships they have while they have them. The irony is that Skips, who has unlimited time, understands the value of limited time better than anyone who actually experiences it. The locket stays with Skips through everything. Wars, disasters, the park getting launched into space. Through it all, he keeps Mona's pictures close. He opens it sometimes when he's alone and looks at the images of two teenagers in love who thought they had all the time in the world. They were wrong, but their story lives on in the immortal Yeti who skips through eternity, carrying their memory forward one hop at a time. By the way, a quick subscribe goes a long way if you like this content. Now continuing. Section 5. Pop's Cosmic Secret. Pops Mellard speaks like he stepped out of a 1920s tea party and acts like a child discovering the world for the first time. He says things like, "Jolly good show," and "good show," after mundane events. He gets excited about lollipops with the enthusiasm of a 6-year-old. He calls everyone by their full names and treats every minor inconvenience like a grand adventure. For 7 seasons, he seemed like an eccentric rich man whose wealthy father owned the park. The truth was far stranger and more tragic than anyone could have imagined. The Dome Experiment special plants seeds of something unusual happening. The episode features scientists trapping the park crew inside a dome for a month-long experiment. The scientists have blueprints of everyone's skeletons, detailed plans for launching the park into space, and mysterious references to the SPARK initiative. Mr. Mellard funded the entire operation and knew exactly what was happening. When Benson demands the truth about why they were trapped, Mr. Mellard gives absurd explanations before finally claiming he just felt like buying a big dome because he's rich. The non-answer hides something much bigger. The real revelation comes in Season 8, when the park gets launched into space. The crew discovers that Pops is a Lollylander, an alien species from a planet called Lollyland. His round, lollipop-shaped head reflects his actual alien biology. Mr. Mellard adopted Pops as a child and raised him on Earth, hiding his true nature from everyone, including Pops himself, for as long as possible. Lollyland exists somewhere in deep space, a planet populated by beings who look like living lollipops. The planet has a guardian who protects it and maintains cosmic balance. Pops was born there as one half of a cosmic duality. His brother, Malum Cranus, was born at the same time with completely opposite energy. Where Pops embodies kindness, joy, and creation, his brother represents cruelty, hatred, and destruction. The universe created them as perfect opposites, destined to fight each other for all eternity. The Chronicles of Lollyland record an endless cycle that has repeated countless times across different universes. Pops and his brother, later nicknamed Anti-Pops by Mordecai and Rigby, meet in combat. They fight with all their cosmic power. The battle always ends the same way. Both brothers throw a punch at each other simultaneously, creating an explosion so powerful that it resets the entire universe. Everything gets erased and starts over from the beginning. The cycle has happened so many times that Earl, Pop's teacher, has tattoos covering his entire body marking each reset. Nobody knows how many times the universe has been destroyed and rebuilt because of these two brothers. Mr. Mellard knew about Pop's cosmic destiny from the beginning. He raised Pops on Earth to give him a normal childhood away from the endless cycle of violence. He taught Pops to be kind and gentle, hoping that somehow this incarnation would be different. He never told Pops the truth about his origins because he wanted his adopted son to have a life free from the burden of knowing he was born to destroy and be destroyed by his own brother. Early hints at Pop's true nature appear throughout the series for anyone paying attention. His childlike wonder comes from the genuine curiosity of someone experiencing Earth culture for the first time. His 1920s gentleman speech patterns are the speech patterns Mr. Mellard taught him when he first arrived on Earth. And Pops never updated them because change comes hard to someone from a timeless cosmic cycle. Episodes show Pops demonstrating abilities no normal person should have. He survives situations that would kill anyone else. He shrugs off injuries that should be fatal. He displays combat skills that seem impossible for someone who acts so innocent and naive. These moments get played for laughs in early seasons, then reveal themselves as glimpses of his cosmic power leaking through his carefully maintained human facade. Anti-Pops, voiced by Robert Englund, appears as Pop's dark reflection. Where Pops glows with warm colors and radiates friendliness, Anti-Pops is all black with glowing white eyes and sharp white teeth. He wears dark armor with a spiked cape. His catchphrase, "Jolly Bad Show," directly opposes Pop's "Jolly Good Show." He calls blue orange and orange blue. He leaves one-star reviews for restaurants he's never visited just to spread negativity. He's everything Pops could have become, created by the universe to balance Pop's overwhelming goodness. Anti-Pops spends Season 8 hunting for Pops with a massive army and advanced technology. He hires a nightmare alien named Carl to track Pops through his dreams. He attacks the space tree where the park crew lives. He puts bounties on Pop's head across the galaxy. He wants to find his brother and finish their eternal battle once and for all, destroying the universe in the process. In Kill 'Em with Kindness, Pops tries to make peace with his brother. He connects with Anti-Pops mentally and offers friendship. Anti-Pops pretends to accept, inviting Pops to meet on a sulfuric lava planet. When Pops arrives expecting peace talks, he finds a trap. Anti-Pops tries to murder his brother while Pops desperately attempts to talk him down. The encounter proves that Anti-Pops can only destroy, and no amount of kindness will change that fundamental truth. The theory that Pops always knew how his story would end holds weight when you examine his behavior throughout the series. He maintains an almost Buddha-like acceptance of whatever happens around him. He never gets truly angry or vengeful, even when people treat him poorly. He approaches every situation with the same gentle optimism, as if he knows that anger and hatred only feed into the cycle he's trying to break. Pop's combat abilities emerge when absolutely necessary. In earlier seasons, he demonstrates surprising fighting skills during supernatural attacks on the park. When threatened in his dreams by the nightmare alien Carl, Pops defeats him effortlessly using techniques he shouldn't know. These moments reveal that underneath the childlike exterior lives a warrior who has fought the same battle across multiple universes. The muscle memory of countless cosmic duels remains buried in his subconscious. Mr. Mellard's behavior throughout the series takes on new meaning with this context. His constant testing of the park crew, including the dome experiment, was preparation for the day when Pops would need allies in his cosmic battle. He funded projects like launching the park into space because he knew, eventually Pops would have to confront his destiny beyond Earth. Every strange decision Mr. Mellard made was actually him trying to give his adopted son the best possible chance of surviving what was coming. The revelation reframes Pops' entire character. His kindness is a conscious choice to embody the opposite of what the universe programmed him to be. His childlike wonder is determination to find joy in existence despite knowing that existence might end at any moment. His gentle nature is the strongest possible rebellion against a cosmic cycle designed to perpetuate violence forever. Season 8 becomes a countdown to the inevitable confrontation. Anti-Pops grows stronger and more destructive. He erases people from existence with a wave of his hand. He can grow larger than solar systems. His saliva creates new star systems just from the excess energy radiating off his body. He represents raw, destructive power on a scale that threatens all of reality itself. Pops trains with Earl to unlock his full cosmic abilities. He learns to control energy, create shields, and tap into power that rivals his brother's. The training montages show Pops struggling with embracing his warrior nature. He wants to avoid violence. He wants to spare everyone, even the brother trying to kill him. Every punch he throws goes against his fundamental nature. The park crew becomes Pop's support system in ways Mr. Mellard never could. Mordecai and Rigby believe in him despite understanding very little about what he is. Benson organizes strategies. Skips shares wisdom from his own centuries of experience. Muscle Man and High Five Ghost provide loyalty and friendship. These relationships give Pop something he never had in previous cycles. People who care about him as a person rather than as a cosmic entity. The finale, a regular epic final battle, brings everything to its climax on Lollyland. Anti-Pops arrives with 4 bounty hunters. He declares the duel's terms. If Pops wins, the universe survives. If Anti-Pops wins, everything gets destroyed. The brothers strip off their clothes, revealing that both possess impossibly muscular bodies. Anti-Pops has a 24-pack of abs, showing that even Pop's gentle exterior hides tremendous physical power. The fight destroys Lollyland. Anti-Pops kills most of the park crew and their allies. He unlocks his Titan form, growing to incomprehensible size and erasing entire planets with casual gestures. Pops responds by unlocking his own Titan form, matching his brother's power. The two cosmic beings clash with enough force to threaten reality itself. Just as their fists are about to collide and reset the universe again, Mordecai and Rigby intervene. They've traveled through time using reality-bending powers, and send both brothers back to the very first episode of the series, the Power. The temporal disruption gives Pops one crucial advantage. He remembers everything while Anti-Pops is disoriented. Pops makes a choice no version of himself has ever made before. He wraps his brother in a hug instead of throwing a punch. Anti-Pops struggles at first, trying to break free and continue the fight. Pops holds on, flying toward the sun while embracing his brother. Anti-Pops realizes what's happening. Pops is going to kill them both, ending the cycle forever by sacrificing himself. In those final moments, Anti-Pops looks at his brother and smiles. He sees someone who cares about him despite everything he's done. He returns the hug, accepting his fate. The two brothers fly into the sun together, dying in each other's arms. The universe survives. The cycle breaks. Existence continues without them. Pops' entire life was preparation for this moment. Every act of kindness was practice for the ultimate act of love, embracing his worst enemy and choosing mutual destruction over eternal violence. His gentlemanly speech and innocent wonder were armor against the cynicism that comes from knowing you're doomed to repeat the same violent cycle forever. The theory that Pops knew his ending proves true. He understood that breaking the cycle would require sacrifice. He prepared by learning to love unconditionally, to find joy in small moments, and to value others above himself. When the moment came, he was ready to do what countless previous versions of himself couldn't: choose love over violence, even when love meant death. Mr. Mallard raised an alien child into the kind of person who could save the universe by hugging his worst enemy into oblivion. Pops Mallard, the gentlest soul at the park, became the greatest warrior by refusing to be one. Good show, old chap. Good show indeed. Section 6. The park's supernatural magnet. Regular Show takes place at a city park in an unnamed location somewhere in America. The park has a house, a snack bar, some picnic tables, a fountain, and acres of grass and trees. On paper, it's completely ordinary. In practice, it's the single most supernaturally active location in the known universe. Demons, wizards, time travelers, reality-bending cassette tapes, interdimensional geese, sentient video games, death himself, and cosmic entities all descend on this one park with alarming regularity. The question nobody ever properly answers is, why? What makes this particular park attract every possible supernatural threat? The show hints at deeper reasons buried beneath the surface, suggesting the park sits on some kind of cosmic nexus point where the barriers between dimensions grow thin. This Is My Jam demonstrates how casually reality can break at the park. Mordecai and Rigby find a cassette tape stuck in the gutters. The tape contains a cheesy pop song called Summertime Loving, Loving in the Summertime, by a band called Solid Bold. Rigby plays the song once, declares it lame, and throws the tape in the garbage. Problem solved, right? Wrong. The song gets stuck in Rigby's head. He can't stop singing it. Mordecai tries various methods to get the earworm unstuck. Playing different music, having Rigby listen to the entire song for closure, even getting Muscle Man to hit Rigby on the head with a broom. Nothing works. The song digs deeper into Rigby's brain with each passing hour. Things escalate when Rigby starts levitating involuntarily. A purple beam shoots out of his mouth while the song plays from nowhere. His pupils dilate. He enters a trance state completely beyond his control. Skips tries punching him to snap him out of it. The punch does nothing. Skips admits he's never seen anything like this before. Rigby sleeps and dreams of pulling the cassette tape out of his own ear. He wakes up relieved. The song is finally gone from his head. Then Mordecai and Rigby hear the song playing again. They turn around to see something impossible. The cassette tape has manifested as a physical entity, a giant living cassette with stick arms and legs wearing red sunglasses. The song left Rigby's mind and became real. Mordecai tries to explain it scientifically. I think the song must have left your head and manifested itself into a physical form. The explanation doesn't help. The cassette dances around them constantly, playing the song on loop. Rigby tries punching it, and his fist goes right through. You can't touch music, even when music takes physical form. The cassette follows them everywhere, annoying everyone at the park. Mordecai decides they need to fight fire with fire. They write their own cheesy, repetitive, catchy song to battle the manifestation. The lyrics are deliberately terrible. Aw snap, come to our macaroni party and we'll take a nap. Skips brings his bass. Muscle Man joins with his trumpet. Pops plays keyboard. They perform the song outside while the cassette fights back. Two giant musicians appear in the sky, one representing each song. They battle with pure sound waves that destroy the snack bar and shatter Benson's window. The cassette's musician overpowers their musician until Benson arrives with a drum set on top of a golf cart. He plays an incredible drum solo that tips the balance. Their giant musician destroys the cassette's giant musician. The cassette explodes. Victory lasts about 5 seconds. Rigby's pupils dilate again and he starts singing their new song. Now that song is stuck in his head as a reality-bending earworm. The cycle continues. The episode ends with everyone screaming in horror. This is just a Tuesday at the park. A cassette tape gained sentience and nearly destroyed reality because Rigby couldn't stop humming a pop song. The show presents this as unremarkable. Just another weird thing that happens when you work at this particular park. The baby ducks provide another example of the park's supernatural magnetism. 4 baby ducks live by the park fountain. Mordecai and Rigby befriend them in A Bunch of Baby Ducks. The ducks learn karate instantly and develop video game skills that surpass Rigby's. When threatened, the 4 ducks fuse together into a giant warrior called Hyperduck, with incredible combat abilities. Hyperduck can project force fields, shoot heat rays, and perform a devastating attack called Step Off that obliterates enemies. The baby ducks are interdimensional warriors who just happen to live at this park. They appear multiple times throughout the series to help fight various threats. Their mother is also a giant warrior. The ducks treat the park as their home base between cosmic battles. Brilliant Century Duck Crisis Special takes the duck storyline to its logical extreme. Playco Industries wants to make toys based on Hyperduck. When Mordecai, Rigby, and the baby ducks refuse to sign the merchandising contract, Playco sends a weaponized cassowary robot and enlists the full-grown geese to attack them. The episode escalates into a massive mecha battle that destroys the moon. Hyperduck gains multiple upgrade forms as different allies join the fight. Carter and Briggs arrive in their flying police car. Andy, the baby duck's long-lost teenage brother, shows up in his own spacecraft. The entire park crew fuses with Hyperduck to create increasingly powerful forms with names like Hyperduck Ultimate Fury Gigawing and Hyperduck Kingbreaker White Lightning. The final battle summons the Galaxy Blade from a distant moon. The blade flies through Mars, destroying the entire planet on its way to Earth. Hyperduck uses the Galaxy Blade to defeat the enemy robots. The resulting explosion destroys not just the park, but the entire planet Earth. Everything gets blown up. Then everyone just climbs out of a crater and continues with their day. The Earth is fine somehow. Reality reasserts itself because this kind of thing happens all the time. The casual destruction of Earth and immediate reset suggests the park exists partially outside normal reality. Time, space, and causality work differently here. Things can get completely destroyed and then be fine by the next episode with zero explanation. Portals to other dimensions open at the park constantly. The Friend Zone is an alternate dimension where rejected romantic partners get trapped. The Death Kwon Do dimension is where warriors learn forbidden martial arts techniques. The TV dimension traps people inside television shows. These aren't special events requiring elaborate rituals. They're just places that happen to be accessible from the park with minimal effort. The theory that the park sits on a cosmic nexus point holds weight when you examine the sheer variety of supernatural entities that show up. Death himself appears multiple times. Wizards, demons, aliens, time travelers, sentient food, living arcade games, interdimensional beings, and cosmic gods all converge on this location. The park attracts every possible form of weirdness like a magnet. Pops provides a partial explanation. He's a cosmic entity from Lollyland, whose destiny involves saving or destroying the universe. Mr. Mellard specifically chose this park as the place to raise Pops. Perhaps Mellard selected this location because it was already supernaturally significant. Or perhaps Pop's presence at the park is what made it a nexus point in the first place. The show never clarifies which came first. Some episodes suggest the park itself might be sentient. Objects at the park behave with intentionality beyond random supernatural events. The park seems to protect itself and its inhabitants during universe-ending threats. When everything gets destroyed, the park comes back. When reality breaks, the park holds together. The park wants to continue existing, and it makes that happen through means nobody fully understands. The Dome Experiment special reveals that Mr. Mellard has been preparing the park crew for something bigger. He funds a project that puts a dome over the entire park to create a contained ecosystem. Scientists study how the park and its employees survive in isolation. The experiment is preparation for launching the park into space. Season 8 fulfills that preparation. The park gets retrofitted with engines and life support systems. The entire property lifts off from Earth and travels through space. The park becomes a spaceship, complete with the house, the fountain, the trees, and all the crew. They travel from planet to planet, having adventures in space while maintaining their jobs as park groundskeepers. The transition from Earth to space happens with minimal fanfare because the park was always operating on a cosmic scale anyway. The supernatural events that happened when it was grounded on Earth continue happening in space. Nothing fundamental changes. The park attracted interdimensional threats on Earth, and it continues attracting them in space. The park's journey through space eventually brings the crew to Lollyland for the final battle between Pops and Anti-Pops. The park serves as the staging ground for a conflict that determines the fate of the universe. A city park in Middle America becomes the location where cosmic brothers fight for existence itself. This is somehow fitting. The park was always the center of everything. The supernatural events weren't random occurrences. They were the park fulfilling its role as the nexus point where all realities converge. Mordecai and Rigby thought they were just slacking off at a dead-end job. They were actually working at the single most important location in the multiverse. Every cassette tape that gains sentience, every interdimensional duck battle, every time-traveling adventure, every reality-breaking video game. They all happened at the park, because the park is where these things happen. The park sits at the intersection of infinite possibilities. It's the one place where normal rules simply do not apply. Benson spends 8 seasons screaming at Mordecai and Rigby for destroying park property. He never acknowledges the bigger question. Why does working at this park require fighting cosmic entities every other week? Why is this considered normal? How is this a minimum wage groundskeeper job? The answer might be that the park chooses its employees as much as they choose to work there. Mordecai and Rigby ended up at the park because they're the type of people who can handle constant supernatural chaos. Skips is immortal and has seen everything. Pops is a cosmic being. Benson keeps everything running through sheer force of will. Muscle Man and High Five Ghost provide loyalty and support. The park crew isn't random. They're exactly the people needed to maintain a reality nexus disguised as a public park. The park eventually gets destroyed multiple times across the series. It always comes back. After the final battle on Lollyland, after Pops sacrifices himself to save the universe, the park continues. The show's epilogue takes place 25 years later. The park still exists, still operating, still being a park. The supernatural threats presumably continue, just with a new generation of employees dealing with them. The park is eternal because the park must be eternal. Reality needs a nexus point. The universe requires a place where impossible things can happen. That place is a city park with a house, a fountain, and some trees. That place is where a blue jay and a raccoon slack off between saving existence itself. That's why everything supernatural happens at this one park. Because if it happened anywhere else, reality would collapse. The park holds everything together by being the place where everything falls apart constantly. It's the eye of the cosmic storm, the still point in the turning world, the one location where all possibilities converge into something resembling normal. Well, normal for regular show anyway. I need to write Section 7, which requires using the episode transcripts and character information provided. Let me start by reading the relevant documents to understand the full scope of Mordecai's romantic storyline. The documents are already in my context. Let me write Section 7 now, following all the established rules. Real quick, subscribe if you haven't yet. It supports the channel more than you think. Section 7. Mordecai's Love Triangle Disaster. Mordecai spent most of regular show pining after a girl who worked at the coffee shop across from the park. Her name was Margaret, a red robin who served coffee and smiled politely while Mordecai invented increasingly transparent excuses to visit the shop. He liked her for years. She seemed to like him back. They went on adventures together, survived supernatural threats, shared moments that should have pushed them together. Nothing ever happened. The problem was Mordecai himself. Every time the opportunity arrived to actually commit to Margaret, he froze. He hesitated. He found reasons to back away from the moment. His romantic cowardice became a running theme throughout the early seasons, with Rigby watching in frustration as his best friend repeatedly fumbled obvious opportunities. Margaret appeared perfect for Mordecai on paper. They enjoyed the same movies, the same music, the same sense of humor. She tolerated his weird job where supernatural disasters happened daily. She put up with Rigby. She even participated in their chaotic adventures without complaint. When a cassowary robot attacked the park, Margaret helped fight it off. When time travel shenanigans threatened reality, she rolled with it. She was cool, down-to-earth, and genuinely kind. Their first kiss happened in Bad Kiss after watching a movie together. Mordecai walked Margaret back to her car. They stood close. The moment arrived. They leaned in and kissed. Then Margaret pulled away abruptly. Mordecai's breath smelled terrible from the chili dog he'd eaten earlier. The kiss was objectively bad. The embarrassment stung worse than the rejection. Seasons passed with Mordecai and Margaret circling each other. They went on dates that weren't officially dates. They had moments that felt romantic but never quite crossed the line. Margaret eventually left to attend Milton University, her dream school. Before she left, Mordecai finally worked up the courage to ask her to be his girlfriend. Margaret turned him down. She stood at the airport in Stake Me Amadeus and told Mordecai she couldn't be with him because she might never get another opportunity like college again. She burst into tears and ran away, leaving Mordecai heartbroken. This should have been the end of the Margaret storyline. Mordecai should have moved on. The show had other plans. Enter CJ, short for Cloudy J. She's a cloud person with white skin and a cloud-like ponytail. When she gets angry, her body turns into a massive storm with lightning, thunder, and damaging winds. Rigby signed Mordecai up for a dating website called Couple Corral to snap him out of his depression over Margaret. The site set Mordecai up on multiple dates. He showed zero interest in any of them until CJ. Their meeting in Yes Dude Yes started awkwardly. Mordecai admitted he only signed up for the site because Rigby made him, and he had no real interest in dating. CJ appreciated the honesty and suggested they just be friends instead. They discovered shared interests: video games, grilled cheese, laser tag, action films. Hanging out with CJ genuinely pulled Mordecai out of his funk. CJ developed feelings for Mordecai. When he invited her to see a movie, she interpreted it as a romantic gesture. The problem was, Mordecai had just learned Margaret was single again. He immediately forgot about CJ and invited Margaret to the same film. CJ walked into the coffee shop at the exact moment Mordecai asked Margaret out. She erupted into a deadly storm, destroying the coffee shop. Mordecai barely calmed her down by explaining he only thought of them as friends. CJ left heartbroken and furious. Months later, they reconnected at a New Year's Eve party in New Year's Kiss. Neither recognized the other because of masquerade masks. They had a friendly conversation about their terrible dates. As midnight approached, CJ suggested they make the best of the remaining minute. They kissed. Then they took off their masks and recognized each other. CJ fled in shock. The relationship developed slowly from there. They played dodgeball against each other. CJ dared Mordecai to eat a sandwich in a portable toilet, accidentally getting him trapped inside a toilet scheduled for destruction at a military firing range. She felt terrible and rescued him with Eileen's help. Mordecai noted that CJ was pretty cool. By I Like You High, Mordecai realized he had romantic feelings for CJ. His phone auto-corrected I Like You G to I Like You High while texting her. She replied, I like you too, hi. Mordecai finally asked her out on an official date. They started dating for real. Their relationship worked better than Mordecai's attempts with Margaret. CJ handled the supernatural chaos of the park with ease. She participated in battles against reality-bending threats. She met Mordecai's parents and got along well with them. She dealt with his embarrassing home videos without judgment. They had genuine chemistry and mutual respect. Then Margaret came back. Margaret returned in Merry Christmas Mordecai during Eileen's Christmas sweater party. Mordecai panicked. He tried desperately to keep CJ and Margaret separated so CJ wouldn't think he still had feelings for Margaret. When they finally met, things were awkward until Mordecai reminded them both of the movie ticket incident. Later, Mordecai and Margaret talked privately about their breakup. They started reminiscing about good times together. Then they accidentally kissed. CJ saw everything and ran out crying before Mordecai could explain. Sad Sax deals with the aftermath. Mordecai tries every possible method to get CJ to forgive him. He gets advice from Sad Sax Guy, a mysterious saxophone player who gives consistently terrible relationship advice. Mordecai sends CJ a singing telegram. He performs cheerleading routines at her grocery store. He fakes his own death by pretending to get hit by a bus. CJ hits him in the head with a sign for that last one. Sad Sax Guy suggests Mordecai ask Margaret to talk to CJ and clear the air. This backfires spectacularly when CJ drives past the park and sees Mordecai and Margaret hugging. She slams on her brakes and screams in frustration before driving away. Mordecai finally gets real advice from his mom. Have an honest, face-to-face conversation with no lies. He steals a scissor lift and puts up Christmas lights, spelling out an apology across from CJ's apartment. Construction workers beat him up for messing with their equipment. CJ visits Mordecai in the hospital where he's bandaged from head to toe. He tells her the complete truth. He used to love Margaret. Their breakup hurt deeply. But he's over her now and only wants to be with CJ. She forgives him. They kiss under mistletoe hanging from the hospital bed rail. The relationship should have been solid after that honest conversation. Margaret continued interfering. In 1000th Chopper flight party, CJ showed up at Margaret's parents' party and saw Mordecai and Margaret laughing together in a news helicopter. Margaret's dad had insisted Mordecai join them. CJ jumped to conclusions and erupted into storm mode again, nearly killing Margaret's parents when they fell from the helicopter. Margaret used a megaphone to explain she had a boyfriend named Del Hanlon. CJ calmed down but felt ashamed at how she'd overreacted. Not great double date, revealed Margaret lied about having a boyfriend. She admitted she still had feelings for Mordecai. CJ was devastated. The drama continued escalating until, dumped at the altar, when Mordecai interrupted Muscleman's wedding to give a speech about not following his gut and not knowing who his soulmate was. CJ asked sadly, "You don't know who your soulmate is?" and gave him back the charm bracelet he'd given her. She left crying. Later, Rigby saw them hugging outside. Mordecai told Rigby they were going to take a break for a while. The relationship ended. According to creator interviews, CJ eventually became a professional dodgeball player and never spoke to Mordecai again. Margaret and Mordecai also never got together. The finale flash forward takes place 25 years later. Mordecai is married to a woman named Steph. She's a bat. The show never introduced her during the actual series. She just appears in the epilogue as Mordecai's wife and the mother of his 3 children. Fans had mixed reactions to this ending. Some appreciated that Mordecai ended up with neither Margaret nor CJ, showing that your first love and your rebound relationship don't have to be your endgame. Others felt cheated that the show spent seasons building up these relationships only to resolve them with, "He married someone we never met." Creator Matt Price explained the decision. "We felt like the Margaret and CJ story was complete, and they were both on their own path already. We also felt like Mordecai had moved on in his life. He finally left the park to pursue art, and we thought it'd be cool if he met someone while doing that. He was too wishy-washy with them." The Seer, a cosmic entity who appears late in the series, explicitly states she preferred CJ over Margaret for Mordecai. The show itself seemed to acknowledge that Mordecai's inability to commit was his fatal flaw in both relationships. Sad Sax Guy serves as meta-commentary on Mordecai's failures. He's a character who exists specifically to give terrible relationship advice while playing dramatic saxophone music. Every suggestion makes things worse. When Rigby confronts Mordecai about listening to Sad Sax Guy, he points out that Sad Sax Guy doesn't even know how to put on a shirt properly. Mordecai keeps taking his advice anyway because desperate people make bad choices. The episode reveals Sad Sax Guy is a total fraud. He admits he knows nothing about anything and only gives advice to feel important. He can only play one song on his saxophone because his mom forced him to take a single lesson. The one piece of good advice he gives Mordecai is to ask his mom for help. Mordecai's mom tells him the family secret to a successful relationship: honest communication with no lies. This becomes the thesis of Mordecai's romantic arc. He failed with Margaret because he could never commit honestly to the relationship. He failed with CJ because Margaret kept interfering and he couldn't fully let go of his feelings. He succeeded with Steph, presumably, because he'd finally learned how to be honest about his emotions and what he wanted. The tragedy is watching Mordecai sabotage 2 genuinely good relationships through cowardice and poor communication. Margaret loved him. CJ loved him. Both were willing to work through problems. Mordecai kept creating situations where the relationships couldn't survive. 25 years later, Mordecai draws abstract art that resembles both Margaret and CJ. They still matter to him even after all that time. He kept the memories even though he lost both women. In the end, he married someone who never knew him during his park groundskeeper days. Someone who met him after he'd grown up and moved past his romantic dysfunction. The message seems clear. Sometimes you don't end up with the person you thought was your soulmate. Sometimes you hurt people who cared about you because you couldn't get out of your own way. Sometimes the only path forward is accepting that you messed up, learning from it, and finding someone new who meets the person you became after all that growth. Mordecai the artist married to Steph is fundamentally different from Mordecai the groundskeeper who couldn't choose between Margaret and CJ. The park was where he made his mistakes. His real life started after he left. Section 8. Rigby and Eileen's Slow Burn. Eileen Roberts worked at the coffee shop across from the park alongside Margaret. For the first several seasons of regular show, she existed primarily as background decoration. She served coffee, smiled politely, and occasionally appeared in episodes where Margaret needed a friend. The show treated her as forgettable. Rigby certainly did. Then Diary revealed the truth. While helping Mordecai water Margaret's plants, Rigby accidentally broke Margaret's diary. The lock fell off. When they tried fixing it, things escalated until they released the Guardian of Margaret's Secrets, a giant flaming manifestation of Margaret who threatened to destroy them unless they revealed meaningful secrets of their own. Rigby panicked. He confessed to stealing his neighbor's bike as a child. He admitted hiding Pop's shoes for fun. He revealed hating showers and kittens. Then, desperately, as the Guardian prepared to destroy them all, Rigby screamed, "I think Eileen is hot without her glasses on!" The confession worked. The Guardian disappeared, The diary was restored. Mordecai teased Rigby about it afterward. Rigby's only response was his signature catchphrase, "Stop talking!" The episode's final scene showed Eileen arriving at the coffee shop without her glasses, having apparently heard Rigby's confession while watering Margaret's plants at the Tripp apartment. She walked straight into a table. Rigby had noticed her. She knew he noticed her. Everything changed from that moment forward. Eileen had crushed on Rigby for years before this revelation. The show hinted at it occasionally in earlier episodes. She appeared nervous around him. She tried too hard to impress him. She acted awkward and weird, burying golf balls in sand traps with her feet and declaring herself a sea turtle. Rigby found her annoying and treated her like a pest he tolerated because she came attached to Margaret. Understanding Eileen requires understanding what the show communicated about her character through small details. She's intelligent. She gets straight A's at City College. She's resourceful. She knows how to start fires without matches and identifies constellations without looking up from her video game. She's skilled at sewing, baking, and modern dance. She's 3 feet 6 inches tall. She's a mole person, though she looks more like a short human woman with poor eyesight. She wears red round glasses and keeps her olive brown hair in a side ponytail. Minty Lewis, the storyboard artist who created Eileen and voices her using her natural speaking voice, describes Eileen's early appearances as making her a pretty big weirdo nerd with major hots for Rigby. The character developed beyond that initial impression as the series progressed. The weirdness remained, but the show recontextualized it as charming rather than off-putting. Camping Can Be Cool marked the first time Rigby showed Eileen genuine respect. Mordecai invited Margaret camping, and Margaret brought Eileen along. Rigby complained about the girls joining them. Then they forgot matches for the fire. Eileen started one the old-fashioned way by rubbing sticks together. Rigby complimented her. "Yeah, that was kinda cool." Eileen blushed. Rigby threw a package of hot dogs at her face to create a distraction and avoid the awkward moment. Later that night, Mordecai and Margaret looked at constellations while Rigby and Eileen played video games together on a log. When Eileen corrected Mordecai's mispronunciation of a constellation name, Rigby complimented her again. They both laughed. When the Stagman attacked and they needed to escape, Eileen threw a rock through Margaret's car window to give them access. Rigby complimented her a third time on the drive home. The progression happened slowly. One pull-up showed Eileen helping Rigby pass his annual fitness test by coaching him to do a single pull-up. They hugged at the end. The hug crushed Eileen's bones because Rigby had developed superhuman strength from training, which should have been romantic except for the accidental injury. Eileen took off her glasses again during this episode, remembering Rigby's diary confession. TGI Tuesday featured slow dancing at Margaret's party. Rigby and Eileen danced together, though they goofed around instead of dancing properly. The moment showed they enjoyed having fun together, even when it meant ignoring social conventions. Episodes revealed small details about their developing friendship. Rigby waters Eileen's plants when she travels for dance competitions. They hang out when Mordecai is with CJ. They attend Renaissance fairs together, where Rigby buys a utility whip. They watch movies at Eileen's house. The relationship builds through mundane moments of two people genuinely enjoying each other's company. Eileen Flat Screen serves as the turning point where Rigby's feelings become undeniable. Eileen wins a flat-screen television in a modern dance competition. She has to go straight to work afterward. Rigby volunteers to drop the TV off at her house. Mordecai assumes Rigby will just leave it there. Rigby explains he plans to install it as a surprise for when Eileen gets home from work. Maybe they can watch TV together and order pizza. Mordecai is shocked. That might be the nicest thing you've ever done. He's right. Rigby never does thoughtful gestures for anyone except Mordecai. The willingness to do unpaid labor to make Eileen happy signals a fundamental shift in how Rigby views her. The installation goes wrong when Rigby accidentally breaks a snow globe belonging to Eileen's terrible roommate Joanne. Joanne retaliates by stealing Eileen's TV. Rigby grabs Joanne's ancient television and declares, "If she's gonna mess with Eileen's flat screen, we're gonna mess with her Hanatronic." The protective instinct drives him. Nobody messes with Eileen's stuff while Rigby is around. They chase Joanne to a bridge where she prepares to throw the flat screen into the river below. Rigby tries reasoning with her. When Joanne calls Eileen a no-respect moochwad, Rigby tenses up. He forces himself to stay calm to save the TV. Joanne throws it anyway. Rigby uses his utility whip to catch it midair before it hits the water. The episode ends with Rigby successfully installing the TV and ordering pizza for everyone. Eileen says, "If this is normal, then I'm happy with normal." She and Rigby share a meaningful look before going to eat pizza together. The moment lands because the show earned it through seasons of gradual development. Merry Christmas Mordecai pushes things further. Rigby brings Eileen a gift at her Christmas party, a mistletoe disco ball. When people start kissing under the disco ball's mistletoe, Mordecai teases Rigby for being too chicken to kiss Eileen. Rigby kisses Eileen on the cheek to prove he's not chicken. Eileen blushes but handles it calmly. The show demonstrates they've both grown comfortable around each other. Rigby holds the same feelings Eileen has had for him all along. Later episodes show them dating in secret. Dumped at the altar reveals they've been together for months. Rigby kept it secret from Mordecai at Eileen's request so they wouldn't rub their happiness in his face, while Mordecai dealt with his CJ and Margaret drama. The consideration for Mordecai's feelings shows maturity from both of them. Their relationship works where Mordecai's failed because Rigby and Eileen actually communicate. The Eileen plan demonstrates this when Rigby discovers Eileen's 6th grade manifesto listing her life goals: become president, eliminate peanut allergies, marry someone brilliant with multiple patents. Rigby feels intimidated by her ambition. He secretly goes back to high school to get his diploma without telling her. Eileen gets upset that he keeps ditching their dates. When she tracks him down, she finds out he's trying to improve himself for her. She tells him she likes him exactly as he is. Rigby decides to continue working for his diploma anyway, for his own betterment rather than to impress her. Crazy fake plan shows Eileen always correctly guessing Rigby's surprise dates before he reveals them. He develops an elaborate plan involving fake locations and a fake biker gang to throw her off. Eileen is impressed with the actual surprise and realizes she needs to stop second-guessing everything he plans. They work through relationship problems by talking about them like functional adults. Snow tubing addresses Eileen's childhood trauma. She's terrified of snow tubing because of an accident as a child where she flew off a tube and got a permanent scar on her elbow. She tries delaying their snow tubing trip without explaining why. They end up on the highest, most dangerous run just as the ski lifts close. Rigby responds with understanding instead of frustration. He tells her she can tell him these things. They have a great time on an action-packed trip down the mountain. Eileen overcomes her fear because Rigby makes her feel safe. Rigby goes to the prom, brings their relationship full circle. Rigby invites Eileen as his date to prom at his old high school, from which he's finally graduating. Eileen accepts because nobody asked her to prom when she was in high school. They have an excellent time together despite chaos involving Rigby's dad trying to reclaim his car. Eileen is enthusiastic about finally experiencing an exciting prom night. The finale flash-forward takes place 25 years after the final battle. Rigby and Eileen are married with 2 daughters. They attend the park reunion together as a happy family. Rigby succeeded where Mordecai failed. He found the person who balanced him, challenged him to grow, and loved him despite his many flaws. The success comes from genuine character development. Early series Rigby was selfish, lazy, immature, and hostile to change. He sabotaged Mordecai constantly. He lied about everything. He refused responsibility for his actions. The Rigby who marries Eileen is fundamentally different. He goes back to high school and earns his diploma. He apologizes when he screws up. He does thoughtful gestures without expecting rewards. He communicates honestly about his feelings. Eileen catalyzes that growth without demanding it. She likes Rigby for who he is, while also seeing his potential to be better. When he tries improving himself to match her ambitions, she tells him he's already enough. When he actually does improve, she supports him while maintaining her own goals and identity. She never shrinks herself to make him feel bigger. The show contrasts this with Mordecai's romantic failures. Mordecai couldn't commit to Margaret when she needed commitment. He created love triangle drama with CJ through poor communication and lingering feelings. He ended up with neither woman because he couldn't grow past his emotional cowardice. Rigby started as the worst person of the duo. He ended as the more successful one because he actually changed. Creator Jade Quintal noted Rigby and Eileen's relationship as an example of Rigby's growth as a character. William Salyers, Rigby's voice actor, initially couldn't imagine any female having the patience to put up with Rigby. Then he realized Eileen must see deeply hidden wells of humanity and resources that most of us are not seeing in that jerk raccoon. The show proved Salyers right by actually showing those wells of humanity emerging over 8 seasons. Matt Price joked that Eileen's biggest flaw is that she loves Rigby unconditionally, then admitted she was a bit obsessed with him when he didn't always or even deserve her unconditional love. The observation acknowledges the early seasons where Eileen's crush seemed one-sided and slightly unhealthy. The relationship only works in the end because it stopped being one-sided. Rigby grew to match what Eileen saw in him all along. The finale's final scene shows Rigby and Eileen kissing, their first on-screen kiss of the entire series, despite being together for years. The kiss happens after Pops sacrifices himself to save the universe. Everyone returns to Earth. Rigby kisses Eileen surrounded by friends and family. Then the show jumps forward through time. Their wedding, their daughters growing up, the family attending the park reunion together. Rigby ends the series as a husband, father, and college graduate. The slacker raccoon who ate discarded donuts from the trash and refused to do his job became the most well-adjusted member of the main cast. He achieved this by finding someone who saw past his exterior to recognize the person he could become, then choosing to actually become that person. Eileen started as a background character serving coffee. She ended as Rigby's wife and the mother of his children. The slow burn worked because the show took its time. 7 seasons of gradual development, small moments, genuine friendship, and mutual growth. They earned their happy ending through consistent character work and patient storytelling. Regular show could have taken the easy route and paired Mordecai with Margaret or CJ in the finale. Instead, the show gave its happiest ending to the couple who actually did the work to deserve it. Rigby and Eileen won because they grew together instead of growing apart. Sometimes the weirdo nerd and the jerk raccoon really are made for each other. If you're enjoying the breakdown, hitting subscribe helps a lot. Let's get back to it. Section 9. Death, Darkness, and Consequences. Regular show aired on Cartoon Network during afternoon programming blocks aimed at children and teenagers. The show featured a blue jay and a raccoon who worked at a park. They goofed off, played video games, and avoided their responsibilities. On the surface, it looked like typical cartoon comedy. Then people started dying. Hello, Governor establishes early that death exists in this universe as an actual permanent consequence. Rigby rents a horror movie about a possessed British taxi that murders people. The movie is cheesy and low budget, filmed in black and white with terrible special effects. Mordecai falls asleep watching it. Rigby becomes terrified. The taxi haunts Rigby's nightmares. He dreams of being a tough guy named Fists, walking through dark alleys. The British taxi appears, says, "Hello, Governor," in a sinister voice, and runs him over. Rigby wakes up screaming. Mordecai tries everything to cure Rigby's fear. He forces Rigby to watch the movie on loop, pointing out the boom microphone visible in shots. Nothing works. The British taxi starts appearing in real life. Rigby sees it in the bathroom mirror. It calls him on the phone. It sends him a fax saying, "Hello, Governor." Rigby insists the taxi is real. Mordecai dismisses it as paranoia until they're driving through the woods and the actual British taxi appears, chasing them through the forest with murderous intent. The twist reveals the taxi was just a video store employee in a costume trying to collect an overdue rental fee. The episode plays it for comedy. The real horror comes from how easily Rigby's fear manifested as reality. The show demonstrates that nightmares can become real at this park. Fear has power. Terror can kill you. The Terror Tales of the Park specials took this concept and ran with it. 6 Halloween episodes aired across 6 seasons, each containing 3 short horror stories told by the park crew. The framing device had everyone sitting around telling scary stories. The stories themselves featured graphic deaths, body horror, and genuine terror. Terror Tales of the Park from Season 3 includes In the House, where Rigby eggs a wizard's house on Halloween. The wizard curses him. Rigby transforms into a house. His body becomes a building with windows for eyes, a door for a mouth, and a chimney for a tail. The transformation is body horror presented as comedy. The wizard hunts down everyone inside House Rigby. He kills Muscle Man by skinning him alive, leaving only his skeleton. Muscle Man's skinless corpse knocks on the door and says, "I told you I was ripped," before falling over dead. The wizard sucks High Five Ghost into a telephone and squirts him out as liquid all over the others. He throws Skips into the fireplace and burns him alive. He flushes Benson down the toilet. He makes Pops disappear. Finally, he chops off Mordecai's head. Mordecai's severed head lands on the floor. He looks up and makes a joke about being as tall as Rigby now. Then the wizard pelts House Rigby with eggs as revenge for Rigby egging his house. The giant egg crushes Rigby and everyone dies. The story ends. The show presents multiple brutal deaths played for laughs within a 10-minute segment aimed at children. The framing device reveals it was just a story Rigby told to scare the others. Everyone is fine. The deaths didn't actually happen. The show can go as dark as it wants because the Terror Tales episodes exist outside canon. Terror Tales of the Park 3 features The Previous Owner, about a poltergeist who haunts the park house. The ghost did everything 200 years ahead of its time. It invented slang, wore modern clothes, and acted like a contemporary teenager, despite living in the 1800s. When it died, it became furious that everyone adopted its ideas without credit. Now it haunts the house, killing anyone who uses anything it invented first. The poltergeist murders people for saying cool or wearing sneakers or eating pizza. It rips people apart for crimes like using a telephone. The deaths are graphic. Blood doesn't appear because it's a cartoon, but the violence is explicit. Characters get torn to shreds. The episode treats it as funny. Terror Tales of the Park 4 includes Unfinished Business, where Mordecai and Rigby are already dead at the start. They're ghosts haunting the park house. Benson can see them. He goes on a quest to fire them so they'll stop haunting the place. Dead Mordecai and dead Rigby try to scare Benson into submission. Benson recruits help to exorcise them. The story acknowledges that Mordecai and Rigby can die, and their ghosts would absolutely continue slacking off in the afterlife. Death wouldn't change their fundamental nature. They'd haunt their workplace and still refuse to do their jobs. The concept is both funny and deeply sad. The Terror Tales episodes allowed the show to explore death without consequences. The main series couldn't kill off main characters permanently, so the Halloween specials served as pressure release valves where anything could happen. The writers could show Pops getting sacrificed to a whole creature, or everyone dying in a party bus that ages passengers rapidly, or Mordecai getting turned into chocolate by a witch. None of it mattered because it wasn't real, except death did matter in the main series. Characters died permanently throughout regular show's run. Muscle Dad died of a heart attack, and his death drove Muscle Man's character development. The show attended his funeral. Muscle Man grieved his father. The death stuck. Several villains died across episodes and never returned. The Duck Collector gets chopped in half by the baby ducks in their super form. The Summertime Song manifestation gets destroyed. The British taxi employee probably needed therapy after Rigby beat him unconscious. Death happened frequently, and the show treated it seriously when it mattered to the story. Exit 9B brings back dead villains through a portal to the underworld. Garrett Bobby Ferguson Jr., son of the video game champion Mordecai and Rigby defeated, builds a freeway that opens a gateway to the fiery center of the earth. Dead villains return. Garrett Bobby Ferguson Sr., the destroyer of worlds, Susan, the Duck Collector, No Rules Man, the Summertime Song, and dozens more. The episode becomes a massive battle between the park crew, aided by their allies, and an army of the dead. The baby ducks fight Susan. Skips gets the Fists of Justice to battle construction workers and zombies. Mordecai destroys the Summertime Song by smashing it in half. The Duck Collector gets karate chopped again. No Rules Man gets trapped in a portable toilet, shaken up, and kicked into the air where an airplane hits it, causing an explosion. The battle demonstrates consequences. Every villain the park crew defeated came back for revenge. Every monster they destroyed remembered being destroyed. Death created enemies that lasted beyond death itself. The park crew couldn't just beat threats and move on. Their actions echoed through time and space. The villains ultimately lose and get sucked back to the underworld. Garrett Bobby Ferguson Sr. explodes again after telling his son he broke the universe record for disappointing his father. The freeway disappears. The park returns to normal. Death reclaims the dead. Pop's sacrifice in the series finale represents the show's ultimate meditation on mortality. Pops discovers he's a cosmic entity destined to fight his brother Anti-Pops for all eternity. Every time they battle, they destroy the universe and reset everything. The cycle has repeated countless times across countless universes. Earl, Pop's teacher, has tattoos marking each reset covering his entire body. Pops can either fight Anti-Pops and reset everything again, or find another way. He trains for the final battle. He unlocks his cosmic powers. He transforms into a giant being capable of destroying planets with casual gestures. When the moment arrives and Pops faces Anti-Pops in combat, instead of throwing a punch, Pops hugs his brother. Anti-Pops struggles at first. Then he realizes what's happening. Pops flies them both toward the sun while maintaining the embrace. Anti-Pops looks at his brother and sees someone who loves him despite everything. He returns the hug. They fly into the sun together and die. The sacrifice breaks the cycle. The universe continues without them. Pops chose death over violence. He chose love over fighting. He saved everyone by giving up his own existence. The finale flash forwards 25 years. The park crew attends a reunion. Everyone has aged. Everyone has moved on with their lives. Pops watches from the afterlife, smiling at the people he saved. His ghost observes their happiness from beyond death. He sees Rigby married to Eileen with 2 daughters. He sees Mordecai married to Steph with 3 kids. He sees Benson still managing the park. He sees Muscle Man and Starla happy together. He sees Skips still skipping. Pop's death mattered because it gave everyone else life. His sacrifice had weight because the show spent 8 seasons building up to that moment. Death was the ultimate consequence in a show where consequences always mattered. Regular show could have been just another cartoon where nothing permanent ever happened. Characters could reset between episodes, deaths could be temporary, relationships could remain static. The show chose differently. It chose to let actions have consequences, to let death be real, to let characters grow and change and suffer real losses. Muscle Dad's death shaped Muscle Man's entire character arc. Skips' lost love Mona explained why he skips every day. Mordecai's failed relationships with Margaret and CJ had permanent effects on his future. Rigby's decision to forge a rejection letter destroyed his friendship with Mordecai for years. Benson's past failures trapped him in a dead-end job. Pop's death saved the universe. The darkness in Regular Show wasn't gratuitous. The show used death and horror and genuine consequences to tell stories about growing up, accepting responsibility, and learning that your choices matter. You can't just slack off forever. You can't avoid your problems. Eventually, you have to face what you've done and deal with the results. The Terror Tales episodes let the show explore death without meaning. The main series demonstrated death with meaning. Both served purposes. One was catharsis through horror comedy. The other was genuine drama through permanent loss. Regular Show walked a tightrope between silly cartoon violence and actual stakes. It featured Mordecai and Rigby goofing off while also showing Pops sacrificing himself to save existence. It had episodes where a sentient cassette tape manifests, and episodes where characters grieve real loss. It balanced comedy with darkness, silliness with gravity, laughs with tears. The show succeeded because it trusted its audience to handle complexity. Kids could laugh at the British taxi saying, "Hello, Governor," and also understand that Pop's dying in the finale was genuinely sad. Teenagers could enjoy the Terror Tales horror stories and also appreciate the emotional weight of Muscle Man losing his father. Adults could recognize the show was doing something special by letting consequences matter in a medium where consequences rarely exist. Death in Regular Show wasn't just a plot device. It was a statement about mortality, meaning, and the importance of how you spend your limited time. Pop spent his final moments hugging someone who hated him. That choice saved everything. The ultimate message was simple. Love matters more than violence, sacrifice means something, and death gives life meaning. If you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to subscribe. Back to the video. Section 10. Muscle Man and the supporting cast. Muscle Man tells jokes about his mom. Every single episode he appears in, he finds a way to work his signature phrase into conversation. You know who else? My mom. The joke makes no grammatical sense. He's insulting his own mother. When Mordecai finally points this out in My Mom, explaining that it should be your mom, Muscle Man loses his mind. The ground splits open. A burning truck emerges. Muscle Bro steps out, demanding to know who insulted their mother. He forces Mordecai and Rigby to kiss a photograph of what they think is Muscle Mom and tell her she's beautiful. Then he makes them eat the photograph. Mordecai and Rigby comply in terror. Muscle Man and Muscle Bro laugh. It was all a prank. The photograph wasn't even their mom. It was a picture of Muscle Man's butt cheek squished up to look like a woman's face. Muscle Man dabbles in photography. The joke works because Muscle Man genuinely loves his mother. He's not mocking her. He's inserting her into every conversation because she matters to him. When someone threatens her honor, even as a joke, he responds with extreme violence. The My Mom construction isn't a mistake. It's Muscle Man's weird way of keeping his mother present in his life at all times. The variations are endless. You know who else needs supervision? My mom! You know who else rocks this hard? My mom! You know who taught him? My mom! You know who else says ugh? My mom! The joke never gets old to Muscle Man because it's not really a joke. It's how he expresses love. Muscle Man's full name is Mitch Sorenstein. He lives in a trailer in the park with High Five Ghost. He's overweight, shirtless most of the time, and has green skin. His best friend is a small ghost with one hand sticking out of his head. Together they form the most loyal duo in the entire show. My Mom reveals Muscle Man's unexpected competence when Benson assigns him to supervise Mordecai and Rigby. Muscle Man knows shortcuts through the city. He checks in with Benson regularly via walkie-talkie, something Mordecai and Rigby never do. He gets free tacos because he makes the vendor laugh. He knows a cop who lets him break traffic laws. High Five Ghost can hotwire the golf cart to make it go crazy fast, a skill taught by Muscle Man's Uncle John. The episode ends with Mordecai and Rigby realizing Muscle Man is actually cool. He took them to the arcade, the movies, and bowling. They had genuine fun together. Then Muscle Man tells another "my mom" joke and ruins everything. Mordecai declares he hates Muscle Man. Rigby responds, "You know who else really hates Muscle Man?" The answer hangs in the air. They learned nothing. Muscle Bro appears occasionally throughout the series. His real name is John Sorenstein. He's older than Muscle Man, taller, with pale skin instead of green. He looks like a regular fat guy. In Trucker Hall of Fame, Muscle Bro delivers the news that changes everything. Muscle Dad died. Muscle Dad was a trucker who died of a heart attack on the road. The family holds a funeral. High Five Ghost cries uncontrollably, which is why Benson sends Mordecai and Rigby to help Muscle Man instead. The subject of death makes High Five Ghost incredibly sad despite being a ghost himself. Muscle Man takes his father's death hard. He's supposed to spread the ashes at Trucker Hall of Fame as per his father's wishes. The journey becomes a quest. Muscle Man learns about his father's legacy on the road. He discovers Muscle Dad was respected and remembered. The episode treats death seriously. Muscle Man grieves genuinely. His father's absence creates a hole that never fully heals. Later episodes reference Muscle Dad's death as motivation for Muscle Man's actions and character growth. The end of Muscle Man appears to kill Muscle Man himself. He acts strangely, gives away his possessions, and says goodbye to everyone. The park crew thinks he's dying. Muscle Bro shows up looking devastated. The twist reveals it's another prank. Muscle Man isn't dying, he's getting married. Everyone gets furious at the fake-out. Muscle Bro leaves in anger, along with the other infuriated park employees. The prank crossed a line. Muscle Man marries Starla in Dumped at the Altar. Starla is Muscle Man's girlfriend who appears midway through the series. She's female Muscle Man, green skin, overweight, confident, loud. She matches his energy completely. They're perfect for each other in ways that seem impossible. Their relationship works because neither one pretends to be something they're not. Starla loves Muscle Man exactly as he is. Shirtless, crude, living in a trailer, telling terrible jokes about his mom. Muscle Man loves Starla exactly as she is. Loud, aggressive, equally crude. They share interests like wrestling, pranks, and lowbrow humor. The show presents their romance without irony or mockery. They're genuinely in love. The wedding almost doesn't happen. Muscle Man gets cold feet. He runs away. The park crew has to track him down and convince him to go through with it. He does. The wedding is beautiful in its own chaotic way. In the finale, flash forward 25 years later, Muscle Man and Starla are still together, still happy, still married. Their relationship succeeded where Mordecai's failed because they never tried to change each other. High Five Ghost, also called Fives or HFG, is Muscle Man's best friend and roommate. He's a small white ghost with a transparent body and one hand sticking out of the top of his head. He floats at about 5 feet 7 inches. He can make additional arms appear when needed. He's quiet most of the time, standing in the background while Muscle Man dominates scenes. The show never explains why High Five Ghost is a ghost. Exit 9B shows him as a baby ghost being held by what appears to be a human mother. It's possible he got turned into a ghost like Mordecai and Rigby did in one episode, but never got changed back. His brother Low Five Ghost is also a ghost. Their father is a ghost. The entire family consists of ghosts. The show treats this as completely normal and never addresses it. High Five Ghost has abilities ghosts typically possess: intangibility, levitation, walking through walls. However, these abilities vary episode to episode. Sometimes he can phase through solid objects. Other times he gets tied up or hit in fights like a regular person. The inconsistency suggests the show cares more about what's funny than what's logical. In the postcard, High Five Ghost meets Celia, a cloud woman he dated 4 years ago who moved to Prague. They reconnected through a postcard. By the finale, they're married with a son who is a half-ghost, half-human hybrid. High Five Ghost becomes a famous DJ. He and Celia DJ together. They're happy. The show reveals almost nothing else about High Five Ghost's backstory, personality, or motivations. He exists primarily as Muscle Man's sidekick and best friend. He supports Muscle Man unconditionally. He participates in pranks. He high-fives Muscle Man constantly. He rarely speaks. When he does speak, he's usually the most logical member of the park crew according to scientists who study them. High-Five Ghost's loyalty to Muscle Man defines his character. When Muscle Man needs him, he's there. When Muscle Man pranks people, High-Five Ghost helps. When Muscle Man gets married, High-Five Ghost stands beside him. The friendship works because High-Five Ghost accepts Muscle Man completely without judgment or complaint. Thomas the Goat intern arrives in Exit 9B, claiming he needs the internship for college credit. He's polite, helpful, and eager to please. He quickly becomes part of the park crew. He goes on adventures with them. He helps save the park from various threats. He seems like a genuinely nice guy who makes lame jokes and asks awkward questions at inappropriate times. The real Thomas reveals the truth. Thomas isn't Thomas. He's Nikolai, a Russian spy sent to infiltrate the park and steal it for Russia using massive rockets. He was born in Kiev on a cold winter night. His parents abandoned him. Russia adopted him and made him a perfect weapon for Mother Russia. He joined the Ministry of Mental Management, MOMM. When Thomas called his mom in previous episodes, he was actually calling his handlers at MOMM. General Romanov ordered Nikolai and Natalia to obtain fake IDs, become Thomas and Natalie, and infiltrate the park. The pizza costume Thomas wore after losing a bet in a Halloween episode? Spyware with a camera and voice recorder in the pepperoni. Every conversation Thomas had was monitored. Everything he learned was reported back to Russia. The plan goes wrong when Russia decides to blow up the park instead of stealing it, attempting to murder everyone on it. Thomas turns against his country to save his friends. He turns the landmass around mid-flight, saving everyone. He can't work at the park anymore because he's now wanted by both Russia and the United States. He goes into hiding. Thomas appears one more time in Guys Night 2, where the park crew throws him a going-away party before he disappears forever into hiding. He launches a flare reading Guys Night 2 in celebration. His last appearance shows him sitting on top of a Russian submarine, raising a drink to bid his friends goodbye as the park blasts into space. It's implied he joined the Russian Navy. Margaret's letter reveals Thomas fled to Canada and now owns a video store in Montreal that only rents spy movies. The show handles Thomas's departure with surprising emotional weight. The park crew considered him a friend. His betrayal hurt. His redemption mattered. Rigby's final words to him stick. "You'll always be Thomas to us." Don is Rigby's younger brother who looks exactly like Rigby, except he's tall with a humanoid body. As a child, Don was short like Rigby currently is. Don grew. Rigby didn't. This created resentment that festered for years. In Dawn, the park faces an audit because Pops paid taxes with lollipops. Mordecai suggests bringing in Don, who's an accountant. Rigby refuses. A flashback shows Rigby's 6th birthday party, where Don unintentionally stole all of Rigby's friends by being more fun. Don gave everyone sugar, his word for hugs. The kids loved him. Rigby stood alone at his own party. Benson calls Don anyway and warns Rigby to be nice or he's fired. Don arrives and gives everyone sugar. He plays football with the park crew. He's friendly, capable, and successful. Everything Rigby isn't. Rigby hides in bushes, throwing the football at Mordecai's chest because he's angry everyone likes Don so much. When Don almost finishes the taxes, Rigby hurts his feelings by refusing sugar again. Don asks if he did something wrong. Rigby says, "Yeah, you were born." Don leaves heartbroken. The park begins disappearing due to the failed audit. Rigby drives to Don's house to apologize and explain. Don reveals he looks up to Rigby. He gets his hair cut like Rigby, tries to look like him, doesn't wear clothes like him because he thinks Rigby is cool. Don admires his older brother. Rigby never knew. They reconcile. Don finishes the audit by having Rigby give him sugar, which works as the final step. The brothers hug. The park is saved. Don appears occasionally afterward, giving Rigby bank shot advice, earning his 5th-degree black belt, letting Rigby borrow his car, which gets destroyed, attending Rigby's high school graduation. Their father Sherm clearly favors Don over Rigby, which explains some of Rigby's resentment. Don is successful, responsible, and accomplished. Rigby struggles with basic tasks. The contrast hurts. The show uses Don to explore sibling dynamics and inadequacy. Rigby spent his entire life in Don's shadow despite being older. Don never meant to overshadow anyone. He genuinely admired Rigby. The misunderstanding created years of pain. Their reconciliation matters because it shows Rigby learning to accept himself and his brother. Muscle Man lives in a trailer. This detail matters more than it seems. The show depicts working-class struggles through Muscle Man's living situation. He can't afford a house. He splits rent with High Five Ghost. When Muscle Man gets married, Starla moves into the trailer with him. They make it work. Trailer Trashed shows Frank Jones trying to destroy Muscle Man's trailer because of a property dispute. Muscle Man fights to save his home. Muscle Bro helps with his truck. The trailer represents everything Muscle Man has. Losing it would destroy him. The park crew rallies to help because they understand what's at stake. The episode treats Muscle Man's economic situation with respect. He's not lazy. He works full-time as a groundskeeper. He does his job. He just doesn't make enough money to afford anything better than a trailer. This is reality for millions of Americans. Regular Show doesn't mock Muscle Man for being working class. It shows his life, honestly. Muscle Man proves himself the most loyal friend repeatedly. When Mordecai needs help, Muscle Man shows up. When the park faces threats, Muscle Man fights alongside everyone else. When Pop sacrifices himself in the finale, Muscle Man mourns genuinely. He pranks people constantly and tells terrible jokes, but when it matters, Muscle Man has everyone's back. His loyalty to High Five Ghost never wavers. His love for Starla never falters. His devotion to his mother never diminishes. His grief over his father's death shapes his character. Muscle Man is crude, loud, obnoxious, and inappropriate. He's also dependable, brave, and loving. The show lets him be both things simultaneously. The supporting cast, Muscle Man, High Five Ghost, Thomas, Don, Muscle Bro, filled out Regular Show's world with depth and complexity. They weren't just side characters existing to support the main duo. They had their own stories, relationships, struggles, and growth. High Five Ghost's unexplained ghost nature, Thomas's secret spy mission, Don's admiration for his brother, Muscle Man's working-class life. These details created texture. The show trusted its audience to care about characters beyond Mordecai and Rigby. That trust paid off. Fans remember Muscle Man's "my mom" jokes, High Five Ghost's quiet loyalty, Thomas's betrayal and redemption, Don's reconciliation with Rigby. These characters mattered because the show treated them like they mattered. In the finale, 25 years later, everyone has moved on except the supporting cast keeps showing up for reunions. Muscle Man and Starla are still together. High Five Ghost became a famous DJ. Don presumably continued being successful. Thomas owns a video store in Canada. They all lived full lives after the park crew disbanded. The supporting cast proved that even in a show about a blue jay and a raccoon who slack off at their park jobs, everyone deserves a complete story. Everyone gets to grow, change, love, lose, and find happiness. Even the shirtless green guy who won't stop talking about his mom. Section 11. The Villains. Garrett Bobby Ferguson appears as a giant floating bearded head. He holds the universe record for Broken Bones, an arcade game about landing motorcycle jumps without breaking bones. When Mordecai and Rigby beat his world record in high score, he emerges from a lightning beam to challenge them. GBF claims his full name is Garrett Bobby Ferguson, not giant bearded face like Rigby assumes. He lies constantly. When Mordecai and Rigby get close to beating his score in a head-to-head match, GBF starts crying. He begs them to let him win. He claims he devoted his entire life to Broken Bones. He says playing so much made his wife leave him. The crowd murmurs in sympathy. Mordecai and Rigby decide to throw the game and do the right thing. GBF stops crying immediately. He laughs and admits he lied about everything. He never devoted his life to the game. It's just a hobby. He never had a wife because nobody can tie GBF down. He cheated through emotional manipulation. The crowd boos. GBF doesn't care. He's Garrett Bobby Ferguson. Then Jack Farley points out the game hasn't finished yet. Mordecai and Rigby keep playing. GBF throws them away from the machine. Rigby bites his shin. Mordecai kicks him in the chin. They beat the universe record. GBF explodes, covering everyone in white brain matter. The episode treats GBF as a parody of Billy Mitchell, the notorious video game champion who later got caught cheating and had his records stripped. Regular Show aired this episode in 2011, 6 years before Mitchell's cheating was proven. The show called it early. GBF's design closely resembles Mitchell, complete with the long hair and beard. Mitchell actually sued Cartoon Network in 2015 for using his likeness without permission. The court threw out the case, ruling that GBF is depicted as a floating head that explodes, making it clear parody that couldn't completely imitate Mitchell's likeness. Exit 9B brings GBF back from the dead alongside dozens of other villains the park crew defeated. Garrett Bobby Ferguson Jr., disguised as a construction contractor, builds a freeway that opens a portal to the underworld. He wants revenge because Mordecai and Rigby killed his father by making him explode. The show never explained how GBF had a son, despite claiming he never had a wife in High Score. Possible explanations include having the son before the relationship ended, asexual reproduction, or just lying about never having a wife. GBF Jr. erases everyone's memories except Mordecai and Rigby, who escape in a time machine. He takes over the park. When the park crew gets their memories back and signs a document declaring the park a historical landmark, all the villains get sucked back to the underworld. GBF Sr. appears and tells his son he broke the universe record for disappointing his father. They both explode and disappear into the portal. The episode serves as a massive crossover event featuring nearly every villain from the first 3 seasons. The Destroyer of Worlds, Susan, the Duck Collector, No Rules Man, the Summertime Song, Death Bear, the Halloween Wizard, and more. They all return for revenge. The park crew allies with friends from previous episodes: the Guardians of Eternal Youth, Death, Gary, the God of Basketball, the Baby Ducks in super form. The battle becomes an all-out war between everyone the park crew helped and everyone they hurt. GBF Jr. proves more dangerous than his father because he's motivated by genuine grief rather than ego. He loved his dad. Seeing him explode drove him to build an interdimensional portal just to bring him back. When his plan fails, GBF Sr. disowns him publicly before dying again. The rejection hits harder than any physical defeat. Susan appears in 2 completely different forms across 2 episodes, creating confusion about whether they're the same character. In Brain Eraser, Mordecai accidentally sees Pops naked getting out of the shower. The image traumatizes him. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees naked Pops. Rigby tries to help by showing Mordecai Planet Chasers, Starlight Excellent, an anime so visually overwhelming it erases memories. The plan works too well. Mordecai becomes catatonic, trapped inside the VHS tape along with his memories. Skips and Rigby go into the tape to rescue him. They need to find Mordecai's memory of naked Pops and cover it with a blanket so he'll forget. Inside Mordecai's mind, naked Pops becomes a fast, laughing entity that escapes across Mordecai's memories. They chase him through the coffee shop, the video store, past crowds of Bensons yelling about being fired, through rooms full of couches. The anime's logic dominates inside the tape. A video store employee named VG lives there permanently because he watched Planet Chasers, Starlight Excellent, all day every day until it trapped him. He prefers being stuck because he doesn't have to work anymore. The tape represents escapism taken to its extreme. Entertainment so consuming it becomes a prison. This Susan has nothing to do with Benson Begone Susan, the park manager who replaces Benson. That Susan starts as a strict but fair supervisor. She assigns tasks efficiently. She checks in on workers. She seems professional. Then her true nature emerges. Susan forces everyone to work incredibly hard. She yells, "Faster, faster, faster," while they clean. The more they follow her orders, the more they physically transform into copies of her. Mordecai grows blonde hair tied in a bun like Susan's. He wears her gray pantsuit. Rigby transforms the same way. So do Skips, Pops, Muscle Man, and High Five Ghost. They all become Susan clones, with their own faces still vaguely visible. Benson saves them by ordering everyone to slack off. He makes Mordecai and Rigby play video games. He makes them eat pizza. The slacking reverses the transformation. Muscle Man's hair comes loose. High Five Ghost drinks soda and morphs back. Skips plays cards. Pops plays video games. Everyone returns to normal. Susan's rage reaches critical mass. Her body turns around while her head stays facing forward. She flies out the window. A giant red demonic version of herself erupts from the ground. She picks up an entire jail building and prepares to crush everyone. Mr. Mellard demands she stop. She picks him up instead, calling him an old fool. Benson negotiates for his job back. Mr. Mellard agrees and throws Benson his car keys. Benson drives the limo toward Giant Susan. Leon, the former park manager turned hobo, jumps into the limo and takes the wheel. He sacrifices himself by crashing into Susan's high heels, breaking them off. Without heels, Susan loses balance and falls into a fiery pit, screaming as she burns. Susan represents toxic management culture. She believes productivity matters more than humanity. Her transformation powers show how bad bosses literally turn employees into copies of themselves. People lose their identities and become extensions of their manager's will. Benson defeats her by encouraging the opposite of her philosophy. slacking off, having fun, remembering workers are people. Leon's sacrifice matters because it shows what happens when work consumes your entire identity. He was park manager before Benson. He gave it up to become a hobo slacker living on benches. He represents Benson's possible future if he never found balance. By saving Benson, Leon proves that even someone who rejected work entirely can still do something meaningful when it matters. Auntie Pops emerges as the final and most powerful villain in Season 8. His real name is Malum Cranus, which translates to Bad Head in Latin. He's Pop's twin brother, born simultaneously on their home planet, Lollyland. Pops represents pure good. Anti-Pops represents pure evil. They're cosmic opposites destined to fight forever. The fight always ends the same way. They throw punches that collide, causing a massive explosion that resets the entire universe. This cycle has repeated countless times. Earl, Pops' teacher, has tattoos covering his entire body marking each reset. The universe keeps destroying and reforming. Different outcomes, same ending. Neither brother ever wins permanently. Anti-Pops appears as a dark mirror of Pops. Black where Pops is white, white eyes instead of black, a beard instead of a mustache, wearing dark armor with a cape covered in spikes. He's rude, tyrannical, homicidal, and genocidal. He wants to destroy all existence. He leaves negative reviews on food websites for restaurants he never visited. He gets angry when he can't post negative stars for bad service. He erases people from existence when they annoy him. The park crew spends Season 8 in space, trying to help Pops prepare for the final battle. Anti-Pops builds an army. He hires bounty hunters. He attacks the space tree trying to kill Pops before he fully awakens to his cosmic power. When Pops tries making peace by offering friendship, Anti-Pops pretends to accept, then sets a trap. He kills Earl during the escape. The finale brings everyone to Lollyland for the last battle. Anti-Pops arrives with 4 bounty hunters. He declares that if Pops wins, the universe stays safe. If Anti-Pops wins, everything gets destroyed. They remove their clothes, revealing both brothers have impossibly muscular bodies. Pops has a 6-pack, Anti-Pops has a 24-pack. The brothers fight hand to hand. Anti-Pops orders his bounty hunters to attack. The park crew's allies arrive, streaming, Blu-ray, DVD, Death, the Baby Ducks, everyone they helped throughout 8 seasons. The bounty hunters die in battle. Anti-Pops transforms into his Titan form, a massive being larger than a solar system with horns and wounds covering his face. Titan Anti-Pops erases everyone on Lollyland. He destroys the entire planet. Only Pops, Mordecai, and Rigby survive initially. Pops unlocks his own Titan form to match his brother. The two giants prepare to throw their universe-ending punches again. Mordecai and Rigby intervene by using time travel to create a glitch in reality. This sends everyone back to the pilot episode, The Power. The interference changes everything. When Anti-Pops and Pops prepare to fight in the present, Pops makes a different choice. Instead of throwing a punch, Pops hugs his brother. Anti-Pops struggles at first. He tries to break free. Then he realizes what's happening. Pops flies them both toward the sun while maintaining the embrace. Anti-Pops looks at Pops and sees someone who genuinely loves him despite everything. He returns the hug. They fly into the sun together. Both brothers die, burning in the solar fire. The hug breaks the cycle. Anti-Pops showed remorse in his final moments. He understood that someone cared about him. The universe continues without them. 25 years later, Pops watches from the afterlife as his friends live happy lives. His sacrifice gave everyone a future instead of endless resets. Anti-Pops proves to be the only villain whose death matters emotionally rather than just practically. GBF exploded and left brain goo everywhere. Susan burned in a pit. Both died as jokes. Anti-Pops dies tragically, hugging his brother while flying into the sun. The show spent 8 seasons building to this moment. The ultimate villain redeemed through love at the cost of both their lives. The villains in regular show ranged from petty, kids on skateboards being rude, to apocalyptic, cosmic entities trying to destroy existence. Most fell somewhere in the middle, supernatural threats that escalated from mundane conflicts. A video game rivalry becomes a universe record holder exploding. A bad boss becomes a giant demon trying to crush employees. A brother's jealousy becomes an eternal cycle of universal destruction. The show balanced goofy and serious by treating every threat with equal weight in the moment. When Mordecai and Rigby fight GBF over a video game score, the stakes feel real, despite being ridiculous. When Susan transforms employees into copies of herself, the body horror lands despite the absurdist premise. When Anti-Pops threatens existence itself, the The emotional weight carries because the show earned it through 7 seasons of gradually escalating threats. Regular show taught that villains come in all sizes. Sometimes the biggest threat is a bad manager. Sometimes it's your own cosmic brother. Sometimes it's yourself, your laziness, your cowardice, your refusal to grow. The park crew fought external villains while battling internal demons. They won both fights by choosing love, friendship, and growth over destruction, isolation, and stagnation. Even the ultimate evil, Anti-Pops himself, could be defeated by a hug. Regular show argued that love is the strongest force in the universe. Stronger than hatred, stronger than destruction. Strong enough to break a cycle lasting millions of years. Strong enough to save everything by sacrificing yourself. Section 12. The Finale and Legacy. Season 8 sent the entire park to space. The dome that protected the park in Season 7 blasted off Earth, carrying Mordecai, Rigby, Benson, Pops, Skips, Muscle Man, High Five Ghost, and Eileen into the cosmos. They joined the Space Tree Station, a massive facility where they became space rangers. The park crew adapted to zero gravity, met alien species, and dealt with space bureaucracy while still getting into the same absurd situations that defined the previous 7 seasons. The space setting wasn't random. Pops needed to prepare for his final battle against Anti-Pops, his evil twin brother destined to destroy the universe. The park crew traveled across galaxies training Pops, recruiting allies, and searching for a way to break the eternal cycle of destruction and rebirth that had repeated for billions of years. A regular epic final battle aired on January 16, 2017, as a special extended 33-minute finale. The park dome landed on Lollyland, Pops' home planet. The crew saw ruins from previous battles scattered across the landscape. They met Lollyland residents who explained the prophecy. Pops and Anti-Pops would fight, their fists would collide, the universe would reset, and everything would start over. Mordecai devised a plan to change the outcome. The crew studied ancient tapestries showing every previous battle. Every fight followed the same pattern. They decided to set traps for Anti-Pops when he arrived. The montage showed them digging pits, sharpening wooden spikes, building catapults, hiding rockets, and setting up a crashed train as ammunition. They worked together preparing for the fight that would determine everything. Anti-Pops showed up late. His ship broke down. A space deer attacked him. His taxi driver talked too much about DJing and finding a roommate. When Anti-Pops finally arrived at the Coliseum, he stepped right into the tripwire. The traps activated. Spiked plates crushed him. Flaming arrows hit. The catapult launched rocks. A missile exploded. The park dome shot lasers. Pops threw a train on top of the wreckage. Everyone celebrated. Then Anti-Pops laughed. He floated out from behind the debris completely unharmed. The traps tickled him. Nothing changed. Pops and Anti-Pops agreed to fight one-on-one. If Pops won, the universe stayed safe. If Anti-Pops won, everything got destroyed. They removed their shirts. Pops had a 6-pack. Anti-Pops had a 24-pack. Muscle Man counted all 24 abs out loud, while Eileen said that wasn't for her. The brothers fought. Pops landed hits. Anti-Pops fired energy beam. They transformed objects mid-battle. Rubble became brick walls. Trains flew on tracks conjured from thin air. Walls turned into butterflies that became spiked wrecking balls that became steamboats. Pops knocked Anti-Pops to the ground. The universe seemed saved. Then Anti-Pops cheated. He ordered his bounty hunters to attack. He kicked Pops while he was down. Streaming arrived with his army seeking revenge on the Discmasters. The final battle exploded into chaos. Allies showed up to help. HD DVD and Blu-ray flew in. The baby ducks arrived. Chance Sure Shot, Toothpick Sally, and Recap Robot joined. Gary and the Guardians of Eternal Youth appeared. Carter and Briggs drove their police cruiser. Death rode his motorcycle. Party Horse showed up ready to party. Everyone the park crew helped throughout 8 seasons returned to fight alongside them. The baby ducks transformed into Hyperduck, combining with Skips, Eileen, Benson, the giant babies, Gary, Carter and Briggs, Death, and Party Horse. They battled Streaming while Pops fought Anti-Pops. The bounty hunters got killed when their cab crashed. Streaming got defeated by combined attacks. Anti-Pops transformed into his Titan form, a massive being larger than solar systems. He fired his erasing beam across Lollyland. He erased the Mushroom Guy, the Lollipop residents, and the Guardian. Muscle Man ran but couldn't outrun the beam. High Five Ghost ran with him. They both screamed as the beam approached. Anti-Pops asked Muscleman for last words.
Muscleman said,
You know who else grows really big to show their dominance but is actually really small deep down? My mom. High Five Ghost laughed and coughed. Good one. They high-fived. Then they got erased from existence. Pops transformed into his own Titan form. He tried protecting everyone with his shield, but Anti-Pops was too powerful. The beam erased Chance Sure-Shot, Toothpick Sally, Recap Robot, the Guardians of Eternal Youth, Gary, Death, Carter and Briggs, Party Horse, the Baby Ducks, Andy, who just showed up late, Skips, Eileen, and Benson. Only Mordecai and Rigby escaped in their spaceships. Pops and Anti-Pops prepared to throw their universe-ending punches. Mordecai and Rigby flew between the colliding fists trying to stop it. Their ship's eject button malfunctioned. The fists collided. Mordecai and Rigby got erased. The universe reset. Part 3 began exactly like the pilot episode, The Power. Mordecai and Rigby wrestled with Beef Burrito the doll in their room. Rigby jumped off the trampoline and crashed into the wall, making a hole. But mid-crash, Rigby remembered. He had déjà vu. He remembered everything. Rigby dug up a Blu-ray box set he buried containing the story of the next 6 years. Mordecai touched it and remembered too. They realized they were in a glitch. Time didn't fully reset. They saw white silhouettes where Benson and Pops should be. The universe was breaking. They used the power to travel back to the final battle. They appeared between Pops and Anti-Pops mid-fight. Anti-Pops tried erasing them. The power shattered. Mordecai and Rigby fell to Lollyland. Anti-Pops blasted the planet, destroying it. Pops flew through a black hole and ended up in J.G. Quintel's original student film, The Naive Man from Lollyland. He saw his original design sitting in a cafe. Then he flew through reality itself. The background turned into storyboards and sticky notes with character sketches. Anti-Pops warped reality, trying to kill Mordecai and Rigby. Pops remembered the seer's advice. Sometimes doing something different makes all the difference. He remembered trying to make peace with Anti-Pops. He remembered his brother saying, "I don't need a hug." Pops smiled. He saved Mordecai and Rigby from Anti-Pops' attacks. Anti-Pops prepared his death blow. Pops spread his arms and floated toward him. Pops hugged his brother. Anti-Pops shrank back to normal size. He struggled against the hug. Positive feelings overwhelmed him. Pops noticed they were floating toward the sun. Anti-Pops realized what was happening. "You'll kill us both, you fool!" Pops spoke telepathically to Mordecai and Rigby. "Don't worry, Mordecai and Rigby. I know you're sad, but I promise this is a happy ending. Take care of each other. Goodbye." Anti-Pops looked at Pops and realized his brother still cared about him despite everything. He felt remorse for his actions. My God, all those one-star reviews. I wish I could take it all back. Pops replied, "You can try. You and I together, brother." They both closed their eyes. Pop's hat disintegrated. The brothers hugged. Anti-Pops opened his eyes one last time to look at Pops in admiration. They flew into the sun together. Both died. Everyone Anti-Pops erased came back to life. The epilogue showed the aftermath. Margaret reported breaking news. The park dome returned to Earth 3 years after leaving. The park crew exited to massive crowds. Mordecai's parents hugged him. Rigby's father Sherm hugged Rigby and shouted proudly to the crowd. Muscleman saw his daughter for the first time. Starla was pregnant when they left. High Five Ghost reunited with Celia. Benson reunited with Applesauce, his pig. Rigby and Eileen kissed. Mr. Mellard looked at the sky, mourning his son, Pops. Mordecai looked up at the moon sympathetically. The park built a statue of Pops with a plaque. He chased butterflies. He loved to laugh. He saved the universe. He was our friend, Pops Mellard. Mordecai and Rigby quit their park jobs after 6 years. They drove separate directions. The show jumped forward in time, showing what everyone became. Mordecai worked as a painter in an art studio. His paintings showed Margaret, CJ, and his friendship with Rigby. Years later at an art convention, he met Steph, a Batwoman who was also an artist. They fell in love. 25 years after the battle, Mordecai had a beard, wore glasses, and a beanie. He and Steph had teenage children who looked bored at the park reunion. Rigby moved in with Eileen. He wore a green jacket and grew a mustache. He played video games with his young daughter, while Eileen brought sandwiches and their infant daughter. 25 years later, Rigby and Eileen had 2 adult daughters who helped at the reunion. Benson got gray hair and stubble. He reunited with Pam the scientist. They raised 4 cats and applesauce. After Mr. Mellard died, Benson became park owner. He wore a blue cap and managed new employees including a zebra, hedgehog, tree, and human. 25 years later, he had a ponytail. Muscle Man and Starla lived in a cleaner trailer with 6 children total. Muscle Man went bald. He and his kids did the signature shirt spin. 25 years later, he chased his children and grandchildren. High Five Ghost and Celia moved to Prague, Czech Republic, and became famous DJs. High Five Ghost grew a goatee and wore a beanie. Skips kept working at the park, fixing cars in his garage, drinking coffee, wearing jean shorts instead of jeans. 25 years later, everyone gathered at the park reunion. Muscle Man chased grandkids. Eileen and Steph talked. Benson and Pam admired their cats. The kids played on phones looking bored. Adults helped children get candy from a Pop's piñata. A statue of Mr. Mellard stood next to Pop's statue. Everyone gathered for a reunion photo. Benson sneezed. Later that night, Mordecai and Rigby sat on the park house steps drinking sodas. Rigby: "Man, I can't believe it's been 25 years. Mordecai: "Yeah, I wish Pops could have been here to see this." Rigby: "Well, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have this." Mordecai: "Yeah." They decided to check if old video games were still in the shed. They said their catchphrase one last time. Humph, 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 humph. Ooh, then laughed. Mordecai: "I can't believe we used to do that." They walked off together. The camera zoomed out, showing the house. The screen turned to static. It zoomed out, revealing a Hanatronic TV in heaven surrounded by butterflies. A VHS tape labeled "Regular Show" ejected from the tape deck. Pops' voice one final time. "Ah, jolly good show." The ending worked because it earned its emotional weight. 8 seasons built to Pop's sacrifice. The show spent years developing these characters, their relationships, their growth. When Pops died saving everyone, it mattered. When Muscle Man and High Five Ghost got erased, making one last "my mom" joke and high-fiving, it hurt. When everyone came back to Earth and lived full lives, it felt deserved. J.G. Quintel knew Regular Show needed to end. He created the show based on his experiences in his 20s working minimum wage jobs. By 2017, Quintel was married with a child. The show reflected his life. It started with slackers and ended with adults who grew up, got married, had kids, and moved on. Quintel said he wanted the ending to show that even though Pops died, it was a happy ending. Everyone got to live. Mordecai and Rigby stayed friends 25 years later, despite taking different paths. The show argued that growing up doesn't mean losing yourself. It means becoming who you're supposed to be. Regular Show won the Emmy for Outstanding Short-Format Animated Program in 2012 for the episode Excellent. The show got nominated 4 more times for the same award. It won critical acclaim for balancing absurdist humor with genuine emotion, for creating memorable characters, for telling a complete story across 8 seasons. After Regular Show ended, Quintel created Close Enough, an adult animated series about a couple in their 30s raising a daughter in Los Angeles while living in a duplex with divorced friends. The show premiered on HBO Max in 2020. It dealt with adult problems: marriage, parenthood, buying a house, balancing work and family, through the same surreal lens Regular Show used. Close Enough lasted 3 seasons before HBO Max canceled it in 2022 and removed it from the service. Quintel's next project is a Regular Show revival called Regular Show Lost Tapes, announced in 2024. Regular Show resonated with millennials stuck in dead-end jobs because it showed their reality. Mordecai and Rigby worked minimum wage doing tasks they hated for a boss who yelled at them. They couldn't afford anything. They lived in a house with coworkers. They felt like failures compared to successful siblings and ex-girlfriends. The supernatural chaos provided escape from mundane misery. The show aired during the Great Recession and its aftermath, when young adults couldn't find careers, buy houses, or achieve milestones previous generations took for granted. Mordecai and Rigby represented a generation trapped between childhood and adulthood, unable to move forward, finding meaning in friendship and small victories. Regular Show holds a unique place in Cartoon Network history as one of only 2 shows to reach 8 seasons, the other being Adventure Time. It proved Cartoon Network could air shows for adults and kids simultaneously. It influenced later Cartoon Network series like Steven Universe, Gumball, and We Bare Bears. Fan theories emerged about the show's true meaning. The most popular? Regular Show is purgatory. Mordecai and Rigby died in a car accident driving the golf cart. The park is the afterlife. They're stuck doing menial tasks forever as punishment. The supernatural events are their minds processing death. Pop's sacrifice represents final judgment, allowing souls to move on. Quintel never confirmed this theory. The show never explicitly stated it. Fans created the interpretation because the show's themes, being stuck, facing death constantly, seeking redemption, finding meaning in chaos, aligned with purgatory concepts. Regular show's cultural impact extends beyond the show itself. Memes spread across the internet. "Oh!" became shorthand for hype. Muscleman's "You know who else?" format spawned countless variations. Rigby's "Stop talking!" clip circulated social media. Clips of Mordecai and Rigby's video game sessions, Benson yelling, and Pops being wholesome became reaction images. The show influenced how people talked about work, friendship, and growing up. It normalized conversations about feeling stuck in dead-end jobs. It showed that immaturity and growth coexist. It proved cartoons could tell complete stories with real stakes while maintaining absurdist humor. Regular show ran from September 6, 2010 to January 16, 2017. 244 episodes across 8 seasons plus a movie. It started with 2 slackers trying to avoid work and ended with those slackers as adults sitting on park steps 25 years after saving the universe. Still best friends, still getting sodas together. Pops saved everyone by hugging his brother into the sun. That act broke a cycle lasting billions of years. Love conquered hatred. Sacrifice saved existence. Growth replaced stagnation. The universe kept going because someone chose connection over violence. In the end, Regular Show was about exactly what the title promised. Regular people living regular lives, dealing with regular problems. They just happened to face those problems while fighting giant heads, demon cassette tapes, and universe-destroying cosmic entities. The show argued that growing up is the hardest adventure. Friendship is the strongest power, and sometimes the most epic battles are fought by people just trying to make it through another day at work. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you're subscribed. It's free and it really helps.